West here, reporting from Houston, Texas for Climate Desk. Now, one of the biggest uncertainties in climate science right now is the role of clouds. What better way to work that part out than flying right through them? That's what NASA scientists aboard this airplane think. Welcome to NASA's biggest airborne laboratory. You're coming with us today on an 8-hour NASA flight mission.
When you read these big IPCC climate assessments, what's the biggest uncertainty? There's two, right? The role of aerosols and clouds. Clouds is probably bigger than aerosols.
That is a piece of a puzzle that right now we are missing.
You can't get the models right if you don't understand the chemistry and the process.
Now we're being told we've got to get on. The doors are about to shut, so let's go aboard. Every time you turn on the weather, every time you hear a climate change prediction, that information has to come from somewhere. And it starts by getting sucked out of the air from planes like this.
So this mission is to particularly try to understand the emissions from the surface, so mostly biogenic emissions, so from trees and other plants.
Right now we're flying to our very first part of this experiment on the DC-8. Over Arkansas, there's a particularly pungent bouquet of emissions that scientists are interested in measuring.
Well, these emissions lead to both aerosols and to molecules that both destroy and create ozone. So these are very important things to understand for climate studies.
How it will manifest itself, it will be in more accurate and more reliable predictions.
So what we're doing is taking a series of flyovers, each at a different level of the atmosphere, scooping up those emissions, testing them, and hopefully scientists are going to see exactly what's in this column of air all the way up.
The data that we collect in one flight can keep busy 60 scientists and students for 3 years, 4 years. We're still studying data from data collected 20 years ago.
In fact, this particular mission today is its most heavily equipped in its nearly 30 years of service. Each one of these consoles here is a specially equipped scientific instrument designed to collect all sorts of different data in real time.
And this instrument here tracks the sun.
We're looking at mist chambers. They're used to strip soluble gases.
This black line is the CO2. It's about 390 ppm right now.
We're putting these filters in the bags that we've got the aerosols that we trapped out of a certain amount of air. And so we're sampling up here about 150 liters a minute.
That ultimately flows back into the operational models. It flows back into what goes on TV every day.
Anyway, I got to get this sample going.
You do it. It's a busy man at work. We can't let him rest. Well, get this. We've just spent 2 hours crisscrossing this one cloud formation. In, back out again, back in again.
Then they grow, and we track them as long as we can, and then we let it go.
Even one cloud can hold a host of answers to the mysteries of climate change.
The patterns of, where the clouds are, what type of clouds we see, what kind of weather systems they're associated with it, that'll all be shifting in a shifting climate, in a world with climate change.
Then the big spark is this, is when we actually get the meat on the grill. And then it will be some time to process it.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies in Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
Ho, ho, here we go on a Thursday. No, it's not. It's only Wednesday. Wednesday, July 29. Getting ahead of myself here. Don't panic. Only Wednesday, July 29. The Bill Press Show. Welcome, welcome. Great to see you today. Lots and lots to talk about here on Free Speech TV and on Talker TV. President Obama, he is back from Africa, arriving early this morning at the White House. Give him a good night's sleep, and then he'll be back at it today, inviting all the House Congressional Democrats down to the White House for a big party this evening in the East Room of the White House. Some of them may not be in town because actually yesterday Congress adjourned for their long summer recess. Yes, indeed, it's not even August, but they have started their August recess. They're going to be gone for 7 weeks at the beach, during which time we will continue to pay them $175,000 a year. Don't you wish you were a member of Congress and could get paid that much money for doing absolutely nothing? And just think of all the important work that they left behind unfinished here in Washington, D.C., but they don't give a damn. Tom Brady, Roger Goodell cracking down and saying, yep, the quarterback of the Patriots, he's the guy that ordered Deflategate, ordered them to take some air out of the footballs in that championship game. He ordered it, he aided it, he covered it up, actually ordered his aide then to destroy his cell phone with all the texts on it. So his 4-game suspension has been upheld. And as if the 2016 presidential race were not crazy enough as it is, Donald Trump made it even crazier yesterday by announcing that he would appoint Sarah Palin as a member of his cabinet. Yeah, well, why doesn't he just make her his vice presidential candidate? Boy, what a team made in heaven. You got it. Lots to talk about. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
We came here to Foster City, where we're going to watch UC Berkeley, a University of California SWAT team, do a hostage rescue scenario.
Should I put the water in there now?
Yeah, go ahead. This is like some kind of chemical agent?
Yeah. Copy, we're ready. I'm gonna get shot. I already know it, dude. Fiend's yelling at me.
Help me. Your hands. Help me. Your hands.
Gentlemen, we have a chemical. We need to pull our person out. Get these guys out of here. Pull them out. Put your hands on your face. Put your hands on your face. Keep him covered.
Your head up. He's got a shotgun back there.
That's all right. Keep his hands up where we can.
Hands on your face.
Hands on your face. On your face.
Someone cover me. I got a holster up, bro.
Okay, pull him around the corner. Pick him up. Get him out of the building. Quickly. We've got this. Let's get that guy out of there. You, come towards us. Keep your hands on your face. Turn around. Face away from us. Back towards us. Quickly. Back up towards me. Quickly. Pull him out of the room.
We're exfilling, Billy?
Yes, we are exfilling.
It was actually around 92, 94, there was an attack on the chancellor at his residence, which is on campus. And we realized at the time that we didn't have any resources to deal with that kind of threat when it took place. So, and I think about 15 years before, they had some kind of semblance of a SWAT team. So they regenerated the idea of activating a SWAT team.
And then since then, you guys have kind of branched out to doing what kind of stuff?
Well, since then, we train for everything. We train for every eventuality, barricaded subjects. Like I said, most of what we do is high-risk warrants.
Okay. And it's something like, it could be like a mugging kind of thing, just like on the street?
Depends. I mean, a mugging, but if it's armed, particularly.
Right, an armed mugging,
yeah. Right,
okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then, obviously, we're looking for training for anything else that we might be faced with. And that's what's great about Urban Shield is, you know, we couldn't duplicate this on our own.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
We got the ticket. Donald Trump says he's going to put Sarah Palin in his cabinet. Why not nominate her for vice president? Hello, everybody.
I can't believe that.
This is not the blind leading the blind. I mean, this is worse than that. Hey, hello, everybody. What do you say? It is Wednesday, July 29. So good to see you today. And thanks for hopping on board the Bill Press bus as we head out to you everywhere in this great land of ours, every corner of the United States of America. We are there with you on the radio, on your local progressive talk radio station. You don't have one where you live? Check out the great radio apps. TuneIn, the TuneIn app, or iHeartRadio, and pick us up there on the radio. And turn on your TV and watch us on Free Speech TV if you're lucky enough to have DirecTV or the Dish Network worldwide. Whatever electronic device you've got, that's where we are on Talker TV, youtube.com/Talker TV. Great to see you today. Lots and lots to talk about. Everything from big game hunters in Africa, sick, to the fact that President Obama is back in Washington after his African trip, and the Congress yesterday, at least the House, packing it up and going off for their 7-week-long August vacation, leaving behind lots and lots and lots of unfinished business, but they just don't give a damn. And, of course, we will pay them for their time at the beach. Great to see you today. Lots to talk about. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Team Press ready to go. Peter Ogburn, Elisa Murphy.
Hello, Bill.
Hey, good morning.
All right. Jamie Benson, ready to take your calls. Dying to take your calls. Keep that man happy and busy at 866-55-PRESS. Monty Kanzler here again as our videographer. You know, with Cyprian bouncing around Europe somewhere. Thank God Monty's nearby. Keeping us looking good on Free Speech TV and Talker TV. And there is lots and lots going on. You know, being on radio and television is a tricky business, and we all search out the best guests that we can get to help illuminate and the inform people about the stories of the day, and we all try to know as much about our guests as possible, right? Before we introduce them. It's just some little personal note that you want to bring to the interview. Jake Tapper learned the hard way that sometimes you can just get it wrong. Here he is saying goodbye to Ben Carson yesterday.
Thanks so much for joining us. You know, this is the first time I've seen you since you lost your mother, and I just wanted to say my deepest condolences on your loss. I know she meant a great deal to you.
Well, I appreciate that, but she actually sprang back.
She's actually alive.
Back.
It looked like she was on her deathbed. We all went down to say our final goodbyes. Everybody started praying, and she sprang back.
Oh my God! I didn't get the memo on the. I just saw the news and said my condolences. Well, that's the best news I've heard all day.
It is wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Yo.
An embarrassing moment.
No.
Well, we're sorry your mother died. Well, she didn't die. Oh, well, we're sorry anyway.
God, that is so cringy.
Isn't that awkward?
Oof. I mean, Tapper handled that about as well as you could possibly handle it, but boy, oh boy, oh boy.
I must say, Jake, if you're listening, you did handle that. He bounced back better than I would have.
Yeah. Actually, she's not dead. She's still alive. Sorry?
I would have probably dropped a few expletives at my staff at that point.
Yeah.
I would hate to be in that position. And giving you any news like that and you used it. Oopsie.
Holy crap.
Okay. Well, prayer works, I guess.
Yeah. There you go.
Can you become those prayers here? Yeah. Two things
She
I
bounced.
need.
Actually, she bounced back.
She bounced back, right. It's Wednesday. David Jackson joins us from the White House. The Honorable James Clyburn from South Carolina. One of our favorites will be along a little bit later. Plus reporters from The Hill, from Blue Nation Review, and from the Daily Beast. Lots going on, and big game hunting. People still do that? But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Bill, I know you're a big fan of the Metro here in Washington, D.C. You write it often.
Twice a day.
Twice a day on the way to the White House. Well, you're not going to like this story because a new study took a look at Metro cars here in Washington, D.C. and found out that some of them still have asbestos inside of them. Some of the rail cars. Now, these are the older rail cars in the fleet. They're known as the 1000 series, but they are still in use. And there are about 280 of the Metro cars that run on all the different systems that still have asbestos in them. They're 40 years old. This study identified which ones they are. They're going to go in. They're going to take it out. It's in a very specific area of the cars near the heater box behind the evaporator in each rail car. They say it doesn't pose a threat to people who are riding. So if you've been riding, you're not in any trouble.
Good.
Nothing happened. But
I never sit by the evaporator.
As a rule.
Safe.
Yeah, smart. You know, Governor Scott Walker he's running for president. He was in Philadelphia yesterday, and he went...
Is that douchebag running for president?
That's the one. That's the one.
Geez.
Well, he went to, they're the two rival cheesesteak places, Pat's and Gino's, right across the street from each other.
I know.
Scott Walker went to both, but he got a little...
Pat's, I forget now which one is the better one.
Pat's is the better one.
Pat's,
Gino's is the crazy right-wing one, where they show up and they have all the crazy right-wing propaganda.
Right.
I just went not that long ago. We did a side-by-side thing. Well, so he went to both of them, but he got in a little bit of trouble because there's a right way to order a cheesesteak in Philadelphia and a wrong way to order a cheesesteak in Philadelphia. Scott Walker went to Gino's. He ordered a cheesesteak with American cheese and no onions.
No.
You could not get more wrong than that. Mm-mm. He also is taking a little bit of heat because he didn't finish his cheesesteak at either location.
Oh, bad.
So if you're going to order it, you got to eat it all, and you got to order it the right way, which, of course, is with Cheese Whiz and with onions.
Isn't there like a phrase or something you use?
You get one cheesesteak, whiz wit.
Snarlin' Ireland, right?
Yeah.
Senator Arlen
Specter. Arlen Specter, Pennsylvania.
Arlen Specter. Republican.
Yeah.
He's the one who taught me how to order a cheesesteak. He told me right there, took me to the window. Said, Bill, got to do it with cheese.
It's serious business.
Cheese Whiz. And we were at Pat's.
That's right. That's the one to go to.
Absolutely.
Don't get it with provolone.
Take it from Snarlin' Ireland.
Don't get it with Swiss cheese. You got to get it with cheese with whiz.
Yeah, well, what does he know? But you would think somebody from Wisconsin might know his cheese.
Yeah, exactly.
You would think so. By the way, you might have noticed earlier our call screener, our associate producer, Jamie Benson, is wearing his Tom Brady jersey today. He's
loser.
Yeah.
It actually collects tears better. That's why he's wearing it.
Yesterday, the NFL upheld a 4-game suspension of the New England Patriots quarterback Tom Brady for his role in the football tampering scandal known as Deflategate. Commissioner Roger Goodell affirmed the suspension. It was originally the 4 games. He said 4 games is the right thing to do. That's what we're going to keep it. He said part of the new information that he received when he was looking at this is that Tom Brady destroyed his cell phone to try and cover up some of the stuff that he had been texting, which you can't do.
No, so he cheated, he lied, and he gets only 4 games suspension?
Yeah, that's pretty weak.
That was a story for me. You know, I thought Goodell would just throw him out of the game or for a season gone or something like that. 4 games? Brady ought to be saying, thank God. That's all I got.
I thought that the 4-game suspension had a chance of being lessened because of the nature of the cheating and the inflating.
You know
of the
what
ball.
did it? The cell phone.
The cell phone did it.
Yeah.
The fact that he tried to hide it and cover it up, that sealed his fate. There's no way.
You know, and I saw last night again the replay of some of the footage when he comes out afterwards. He just lied through his teeth. And he said, I knew nothing about it. I never touched the balls. I did. Yeah.
He almost made it laughable at that press conference.
Yeah, right. Jerk. All right. Sorry, Jimmy. Take that damn shirt off. I'll give you mine. Whatever, something to wear. All right. At any rate, you know, we start with a really disgusting story today. I'm sorry. It has got me so upset. And it has nothing to do with American politics. It has nothing to do with what Congress is up to, what the president's up to today. But it's got a lot to do with just basic decency, I think, you know, and what civilized human beings ought to be all about. And one of the things we should not be about is killing God's greatest creatures on earth, the most beautiful animals on earth, these big game hunters. You know, this is sort of like something like, yeah, they used to go out and chase down Native Americans, right, and kill them too for sport, right? I mean, or they went out and destroyed America's great buffalo herds, right? I mean, but that was 200 years ago, right? I mean, the fact that people are still big game hunting today anywhere on the planet, I don't care who they are, it's just unfathomable. It's unbelievable to me that this still happens and that there are people who get their rocks off on this stuff. And, you know, of course, I'm talking about this lion that was killed yesterday, that was killed recently in Zimbabwe by an American dentist. He's brought disgrace on the entire country. This guy, Walter James Palmer, Eden Prairie, Minnesota is where he practices. I think he might live in, like, Bloomington, but Eden Prairie is what the news reports are talking about. And I don't know, if you're anywhere near this guy in his office today, just show up with a big sign. just show your anger and show your outrage at this. So he goes to he's been in trouble before. Mm-hmm. And you know, there are pictures of him with all kinds of beautiful, beautiful creatures that he has shot and killed. He gets this obsession. What is it about these people, right? Who feel that they have to show that they're manly, right, by picking up a gun and killing an animal that has no way to defend itself. So he goes to Zimbabwe, hires 2 guides, pays them $50,000. They go into this game reserve where there's this. Now, I never heard of Cecil before, but apparently Cecil is known, loved. He's sort of like, it'd be like shooting Lassie.
He's sort of the mascot for this particular park. They've had a GPS collar on him for a long, long time, so people can follow his movements.
He's in this reserve.
Seen several photos.
He's
of
a
him.
black Maine lion, which are very, very rare. I didn't even know they existed. Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful creature. And everybody loves him, and he's well known. He's Zimbabwe. He's sort of like Zimbabwe's national animal, if you will, right? And they go in this park, and they see him, and then they tie like a dead animal to their pickup truck and lure him out of the park, out of the game reserve.
Because you can't kill him in the park.
They know who he is.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing. They lure him out of the park to another area. The guy shoots him with a bow and arrow, fails to kill him, so then they track him down and hunt him down for 40 hours. before they finally catch up with him. They finally get him, kill him, skin him, and behead him. This beautiful creature, $50,000. Why? It's just disgusting. So they've arrested the two guys in Zimbabwe. And now Zimbabwe's going out, they're talking about, so what ought to happen to this dentist? That's my question to you. I'll tell you, I think what ought to happen we ought to extradite him to Zimbabwe. And boy, I'm against the death penalty, but not for him.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. Hang him. 866-55-PRESS. I just think it is so disgusting. And it's not the first time. This guy, back in 2008, this same dentist, Walter James Palmer.
Can't say his name enough.
Can't say his name enough. I just want you to know who he is. He shot a black bear in a national park or a state park or something, and he dragged it like a mile or so outside of that area. And when Fish and Game people came and found him with a bear, they say he said he shot it there. He just lied, and he ended up having to pay a fine.
And he was prohibited from hunting.
Prohibited from hunting for a while. Yeah, take his license away. No, I don't understand why we just don't ban big game hunting nationwide. There's particularly today with these animals that are become so rare because of a lot of this poaching activity. And I don't know whether we could get away with it. I'd like to see us pass a law in this country that no American can engage in this sport anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
And if they do, that they have broken American law anywhere in the world. Now, we don't have the law right now, so I'd say extradite this guy to Zimbabwe. Send him down there and let them deal with him, and let him put him in prison for the rest of his life, as far as I'm concerned. Or death, better yet, death penalty.
Yeah, hunting has
disgusting.
Is a long tradition in this country, and I understand. It's in my family. I know it's in your family.
In my family,
there's a great reason
duck hunting,
to go out duck hunting, deer hunting, population control, to provide food to your family, to have that moment with you. But let's keep in mind what we're talking about
these
here.
Creatures
this guy doesn't do that.
Endangered species, right?
This guy does not do that. He has pictures
hunting.
out there.
Trophy
exactly.
hunting.
There are pictures out there of him hunting endangered ram, photos of him with a ram, photos of him with bears, photos of him with other lions, photos of him with leopards.
Yeah.
That he just goes out and kills.
Yeah.
For no good reason.
Right. And he says, I do all this legally, and this is just an activity that I enjoy. Well, guess what? Right? You're a sick man, and we're not going to allow you to do that anymore. What ought to happen to this dentist from Minnesota who killed Cecil, tracked him down? 866-55-PRESS. Nothing you can say that ought to happen to him will be too bad for me. All right? I just want to tell you. You can, no. There are no limits, as far as I'm concerned, to Walter James Palmer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Silicon Valley's Santa Clara County is often portrayed as a role model for the rest of the country. The county has some of the highest salaries and most expensive real estate in America, thanks in large part to the phenomenal success of tech companies such as Google, Yahoo, Intel, Adobe, and of course Apple, the nation's wealthiest and most profitable company. But Santa Clara County also has a more unseemly distinction. I'm standing near downtown San Jose, inside what is by some accounts the largest homeless encampment in America. The Jungle, as it's known, occupies a 65-acre stretch of creek where about 300 people live in makeshift structures. It's less of a homeless encampment than a full-blown shantytown.
This being the largest homeless encampment in the United States, and with us having Silicon Valley with Steve Jobs and all this cash, we're not supposed to have this kind of homeless problem. You know what I mean?
I done been shot with a pellet gun like 4 times, attacked with baseball bats, my house set on fire.
This is like hell on earth. I mean, this is like something you will not see. You have to see to believe, actually. It's like fourth world conditions.
Hi, have you ever heard of a place called the Jungle?
Sorry?
A place called the Jungle, have you heard of it?
We're not making enough money really for conventional homes or housing, and we make too much money for subsidized homes. So we're kind of, floating between the oil and the water.
We told the landlady here if it would be possible to continue staying here. She said, no, you got to go. I already rented it out. We went and loaded things into a storage facility, and it's still there. And all the campgrounds and things that we saw were too far out of the city, like KOAs and that sort of thing. So what we decided to do was to move into the jungle. So that's what we did.
A few days ago, a woman named Lydia Hernandez was robbed inside of her tent. When she refused to hand over the money, the robbers slit her throat. When she still fought back, they bashed her head with an axe. She died a few hours later. Residents say that the police never come into the jungle, so they have to fend for themselves.
There's no law down there except our own, right? There's no law. So we could smoke dope all day in the open. The dope dealers ain't scared because, they're secure.
We go to the Fairmont Hotel and have a brunch or do a philanthropy. That's not going to cut it. We need billions of dollars to go into the inner cities and go into the jungle. Silicon Valley, the Bay Area is known for its innovation, its progressive thinking. It's one of the most progressive pockets in the United States, if not the world, and certainly one of the wealthiest. If we can't do it here, it won't happen anywhere. It's got to happen here.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, 27 minutes after the hour, focusing on this just disgusting story out of Zimbabwe. It would have to be an American. By the way, and part of the problem, as the officials of Zimbabwe have pointed out, is that the more rare these animals become, the more people will pay, in sort of a perverse way, to kill them because they are so rare. There's a case of another American a couple of years ago who paid $350,000 to kill a black rhino in Namibia.
Why would you want to kill a black rhino? They're highly endangered.
Yeah.
Like, what's the point?
Bill is out on the phone here from Chicago. Hello, Bill. What do you say?
Hey, how you doing, Bill? Hey, listen, you need to do us all a favor right now. I think you need to go Donald Trump on this guy and get out his phone number over the air.
Oh, wow. Yeah. You know what? We'll do that.
Why not?
Yeah,
sure.
And how about his office location, too? Maybe we should throw a little protest outside this guy.
For the record, his practice has been locked up, windows drawn. He's not showing up for work. He's in hiding. Because people have shown up at his work to protest.
All right. Well, listen, as far as I'm concerned, unless you guys tell me during the break you can't do it, let's Google him. Let's get his office number and just start pumping calls into there. I don't want him in this country. Throw him out of the country.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Officer, were you the one who arrested me? Gonna shake my hand? So I got invited to host a vigil called Carry the Names. And that's what they were doing, carrying the names of the people who were victims of deadly police force. Michael Brown, Eric Garner, that guy Gurley. I got a motion from Dragonfly from Stop Shopping Choir, and I started preaching. I preached up a storm as best I could, but about a minute and a half into my sermon, the place was flooded with police, Homeland Security,
National Guard, state troopers, and I was pushed over and handcuffed so fast, down in the jail, down in the basement. Before you know it, I was out the door, put in prison overnight. The next morning, I'm in court. The same thing happens. I'm just rushed out of there. Then our lawyer, Wiley Steckler, gives me this iPhone. And there, in black and white, in the Gothamist, a popular paper, is this charge by Adam Lisberg, the MTA law enforcement spokesperson for this grand place. His quote is that I, Reverend Billy, physically attacked a police officer. Unbelievable. The feeling of being robbed of my work and life and identity, just the fiction. I did not touch anybody. I did not look. I know how to do this. I'm trained in nonviolence. I did not do anything. It was right here. It was right here. It happened right here. I was simply arrested while I was speaking and taken away, and that's it. The cold feeling in my city, the city that I love, that city spokespersons whose salary I pay for with my taxes, that they would say this. I can just feel the rending apart of the community, that we are not that close. We're not. They are willing to say this, and they think that they can just say anything about anybody and get away with it. So we have something in the Church of Stop Shopping called radical forgiveness. Amen?
Cops and bankers love their children.
I forgive the police.
We gotta love them too. Cops and bankers love their mothers.
But I'll stay radical.
Mothers love their brothers. We gotta love them too.
But we'll wake up every morning forgiving each other, reaching out, touching, telling stories, having humor, being in a community together, sharing our children, sharing the streets, sharing the climate, being in the city together. But forgiving each other, being grateful to each other, helping each other out, living together, living together.
I got a daughter just turned 4. What do we do in the superstore? What do we do with the blood and the gore? The water's rising through our door. Love our children too. Love our children too.
Amen. Earthalluia.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, 33 minutes after the hour, talking about this Minnesota dentist, Walter James Palmer is his name, who shot and killed Cecil, this beloved lion in Zimbabwe. Any lion, as far as I'm concerned. This happened to be the most famous, the most beloved, sort of the national animal of Zimbabwe. And his lame excuse, all right, before he took down everything from Facebook page and Yelp and everything else, and before they shuttered the windows in his office and locked his office door and he went into hiding, he says, he put out a little statement, "I deeply regret that my pursuit of an activity I love and practice responsibly and legally resulted in the taking of this lion." An activity I love. Yeah. You know, no matter how sick you are, that doesn't mean if you love it that it's okay to do it. And practice responsibly, there is no way to practice big game hunting, trophy hunting responsibly. Right. It is by nature irresponsible.
And as Jimmy Kimmel said last night, he keeps referring to taking the lion. You didn't take the lion. You hunted and killed it in a brutal fashion.
I thought Jimmy Kimmel said, captured exactly what this is all about for this sick dentist from Minnesota. Here's Jimmy Kimmel last night.
The big question is, why are you shooting a lion in the first place? I mean, I'm honestly curious to know why a human being would feel compelled to do that. How is that fun? Is it that difficult for you to get an erection that you need to kill things that are stronger than
you? Got it,
if that's the case, they have a pill for that. It works great. Just stay home and swallow it, and you save yourself a lifetime of being the most hated man in America who never advertised Jell-O pudding on television.
The Bill Cosby reference, absolutely.
One other thing that Kimmel did on his show last night, he spent a good 5 minutes on it, is at the very end of this whole monologue on this guy, he made sure to point out you can go to wildcru.org. We're going to tweet it out as well from our Twitter account at BP Show. But wildcru.org, that's the group that had the GPS unit on Cecil that was tracking him.
Right.
And again, it's worth pointing out that this hunter, this dentist, they tried to destroy that GPS collar when they found out, because they didn't realize that this was the lion. So that's part of the reason that the head was cut off, and that they tried to destroy this GPS collar. But if you go to that website, you can contribute, you can help. And Kimmel he broke down. He was crying talking about it last night. But that's a great website if you want to go and help.
One of these guides, by the way, also puts out a BS statement saying, "We did not know it was a well-known lion. I had a license for my client to shoot a lion with a bow and arrow in the area where it was shot." No. First of all, I saw other people last night on television saying everybody knew this lion.
Yeah.
It was a black-maned lion. Everybody knew Cecil. And the other thing is, they didn't shoot it in the park. They didn't shoot it where it was legal to shoot it and should have been legal to shoot it anywhere. They put meat on the back of a pickup truck and lured it out of the park into another area. They knew exactly what they were doing. But, as Bill said from Chicago, we ought to go Donald Trump on this guy. I agree. Let's go Donald Trump on this guy. Here's Pat from right here on Capitol Hill, just down the street. Hello, Pat.
Hey now.
Yeah, hi, Bill. How you doing?
All right. What do you got for us?
Well, my wife and I were just really steamed about this last night, and so I did, just dipped my toe into the internet and found that the good doctor has a phone number.
Let's do it.
It is 952-884-5361, and of course it goes right to busy, but I decided that a very sharply worded text would probably point in the right direction, as well as an email through his association, whose name I forget, but it's a local dentistry.
I think hold on, Pat. Peter's got it here.
Yeah, it's River Bluff Dental is the name of his organization, and it's riverbluffdental.com is where you can find everything you need to know about Dr. Walter J. Palmer.
And you can send them an email.
You can send them an email there. They've got their address there. If you're in the Minnesota area or Bloomington area and you want to show up, and it's got the phone number there too. So
all right. So Pat, thank you. I want to give it again. Thanks to Pat right here, our neighbor on Capitol Hill. 952-884-5361. That's we're not going to give. We don't have his home number anyhow, but we're going to give his office number. Bombard it with calls. At some point, they're going to have to take those calls or take messages, Pat, right? Let's hope. And also send them an email to riverbluffdental.com. That's his office there is that in Bloomington, right? Bloomington, Minnesota. Again, what should happen to this guy? If Zimbabwe does, and Zimbabwe, there was some, initially, there was a little confusion as, is this really the guy? No, Zimbabwe, the government has actually put out, Walter James, here's their tweet, Walter James Palmer was the man who killed Cecil the lion. This was an illegal hunt. No doubt about it. So they've cleared that up. What happened? And this guy, again, has a history of not only trophy hunting, but illegal trophy hunting. But he said, it's an activity I love, so therefore I should be able to do it. No, you shouldn't, douchebag. Helen, up in Ithaca, New York. Helen, what ought to happen to this guy?
Hey, good morning. God bless Cecil the lion. I'm so sorry about Cecil.
No, it's disgusting. So sad, yeah.
But this guy, the new Oxford comes out under the title, if you look up the word jerk, maybe it'll have a picture of Walter James Palmer. But another thing that happened with this is, and I checked this out with some friends of mine who work at that school here at Cornell, that once he leaves his lioness and he had some baby lions there, they're all going to be killed. Mm-hmm. Because a new male lion is going to come in, and the first thing he's going to do is kill the cubs, you know? So this guy has no excuses for anything. They track this, they entice the thing with you know, I shouldn't have said this thing. Got him.
The first thing they did, by the way, they went into that park with a spotlight, right, to find him. Right, they were hunting at night, and they went in, with a spotlight to find him. Right, I mean, talk about an unfair advantage. You know,
no, there's no excuses, and this guy's lying all the time. Yeah. And then when they find him and he's dead, the first thing they do is try to destroy the evidence, which they didn't manage to do. And I don't know where the lion's head is. You know, it's not going to be hanging on his family room wall, I don't think, because he's in big trouble. And I am going to call River Bluff Dental.
Yes.
And this is, it was so to hear about this is such bad news, but the good news is that so many people are aware of it and they're.
But I just hope, yes, and I hope there are people, I hope there are thousands and thousands of people. Let's have a Bernie Sanders kind of crowd outside of that dental office today. And again, I take his license away, not just his hunting license. I wouldn't want this guy anywhere near my mouth. I'd take his dental license away from him, and I'd extradite him to Zimbabwe. You cannot come up with a punishment that I would think would be too extreme for this guy.
You know, Monty
Helen,
Kanzler, our videographer, just pointed out that River Bluff Dental only has 1 star on Yelp. So I don't think he's doing very well at all. No wonder why he has to go all the way to Africa to try to redeem himself.
I hate to make a sad story even sadder, but our caller just mentioned something that's worth pointing out, because in one of the stories they talked about how Cecil has 6 cubs.
So the new male lion will take over the pack, or whatever they call it.
Jericho is this other lion's name. They've actually identified part of the problem. Jericho, the lion, is going to take over this pack, and Cecil has 6 lion cubs, and they're not expected to make it. Because the new lion is going to come in and kill them.
What happens in the lion world is the new male lion has to kill the cubs, so his line, that you know... How do you know that? But that's
right.
How does Jericho know to do that? But that's what they do, and so most likely they won't be able to save those cubs because it's a wild game reserve, right? They're not in cages, right? They can't protect them that way. So that does make the story even sad. It's just, I have to tell you, way back, I was running for office at one point, and there was a man in Orange County that wanted to support me, and I welcomed his help. He had a lot of money, and he threw a party at his house, and I went to his house for the first time, and I walked in his house, and there was a polar bear alongside.
Oh no!
Oh my goodness!
Front door, and I said, "What is that?" And he said, "Oh, I shot it."
Ugh.
Yeah. I never spoke to him again.
Good.
Never spoke to him again. Didn't want anything to do with it. Just absolutely, totally disgusting. We'll continue. So it's up on our website. The number again, 952-884-5361. I wish I had his cell phone number. We'll give you that one too. riverbluffdental.com in Bloomington, Illinois. Raise hell any way you can. David Jackson, always raising hell at the White House. We'll be right back and talk to him.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I started learning about nutrition, about which, by the way, much less is known than you might think, I learned that what mattered most about one's health was not necessarily the nutrients, good or bad, that you were consuming or staying away from, or even the calorie counts. But what predicted a healthy diet more than anything else is the fact that it was being cooked by a human being and not a corporation. Corporations cook very differently than people do. They use vast amounts of salt, fat, and sugar, much more than you would ever use in your own cooking. And the reason they do that is those are three incredibly attractive and incredibly cheap ingredients. And when they're layered properly, as in a chip or pastries and forms of junk food, they're incredibly addictive. They really press our buttons. They activate our dopamine network, our cravings. And in fact, people in the industry, they don't talk about addiction in the food industry, even though they traffic in addiction. They talk about craveability. It's the same thing. And snackability is another term they use. It's a lovely word. And then the last point about corporate cooking that's important to understand is they cook different stuff than you do at home. What they're good at, in general, they don't cook that well, but things like chips, they cook incredibly well. And here's a classic food that if you make it yourself, if you've ever made French fries, you have to wash the potatoes, you have to peel the potatoes, you have to slice the potatoes, you have to fry them in a lot of oil, you have to spatter your entire stovetop, you have to clean up, and then you have this pot of oil you have to get rid of. I mean, it's really difficult, and it's a pain. They're wonderful, but it's a pain. And if you make them yourself, you'll only eat them every 6 weeks, 2 months, because it's too much work. But when you let corporations cook for you, it's so simple and so inexpensive, and they're really good, that you will have them twice a day, as many people in America do. So you see the kinds of foods you end up with are these labor-intensive foods and desserts. These special occasion foods become everyday foods when we let industry cook for us. Eat anything you want, just cook it yourself.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on Talker TV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Here we are, 13 minutes before the top of the hour on a Wednesday morning. You know, you got to feel sorry for President Obama. He gets back from Africa. He got back early this morning from Africa, and already those pesky reporters are down there at the White House probably banging on his door trying to talk to him about some issues or something. Led by David Jackson from USA Today, White House correspondent. David, how you doing? Good morning.
Fine. Hey, don't worry. He's still asleep, so don't worry about him.
I hope he is, right?
Yeah, I think so.
What time they got in? About
12:30. So 12:30 a.m. So a little bit ahead of schedule, actually. But you know, I'm sure he didn't go right to bed. He probably popped into the sack about 1:30. So I'm sure he's still snoozing.
What are they? You know, they were worried about security before they went over there, obviously. But aside from that, what are they saying about the trip? Considered a mission accomplished?
Oh, they loved it. Yeah, very much so. Very much so. He met with a lot of African leaders, a lot of economic leaders, basically selling the fact that the U.S. can help Africa develop its economy through trade. That was priority number one, actually. And he got in some licks on some of the anti-gay laws in Kenya and Ethiopia, some of the anti-democratic practices. He kind of lectured the African leaders that it's important to share power and try to develop a civil society. So they felt like it was a great success. And he also got to knock Mike Huckabee and Donald Trump along the way. So
right.
He finally decided he kind of stepped in the 26th election in a big way, given Huckabee's comments about the Iran deal. That gave him the entree, and he seized it.
Yeah, and all those issues, the sensitive issues, you just mentioned a couple of them that Susan Rice was asked about at our briefing last week. And she said, given the opportunity, the president would not hold back, and he did not hold back.
No, he didn't. He answered it pretty. They actually, oddly enough, Nigeria is becoming kind of the model. They just had a democratic election and had a peaceful transfer of power, and I think they pointed that as an example for other countries. And we'll see how it goes. And the security there weren't any problems on the trip. It all went pretty smoothly, so I think they're pretty satisfied.
And now he comes back. What are the chances of getting anything done this summer? Congress adjourned yesterday for the long break. He's got a Martha's Vineyard vacation plan.
Yeah,
it's just downtime from now for the next.
I think so. I think you get a highway bill eventually if Congress can work out its own problems. I think the Ex-Im Bank will be rechartered, and after that, it's just the Iran deal. I think that's kind of it. I think this is it in terms of his relationship with Congress once he gets the Iran deal through. And getting it through is a relative term. What I think is he'll get just enough votes to not override a veto of an anti-deal resolution. But beyond that, I think he and Congress are going to be kind of done.
He got a big boost yesterday with Sandy Levin, who's the, I guess, the senior Jewish member of the House on the Democratic, of the House, but happened to be a Democrat, who came out for the deal, saying this is the best protection for Israel.
Exactly, and I think a lot of people will follow suit. There have been some Democratic skeptics, but I don't know of any Democrats that have actually stood up and said, "Hey, I'm going to vote against this thing." So, we could be looking at a party line vote on this Iran treaty, which would be very interesting from a socio-political standpoint, but it would still get the deal through.
Right. David, you have you're kind of wearing two hats these days.
Yes.
Not only still covering the current occupant of the White House, but spending some time with those who would like to be the next occupant of the White House. Jeb Bush and Donald Trump, among others, right?
Exactly, yes. They asked me to track Jeb Bush, and I've been doing a lot of Trump stories, too, because Trump is the story in the Republican primary. We'll be doing the debate next week. In fact, I guess it's a week from tomorrow. The first Republican debate will be in Cleveland, and the story will all be about how they deal with Donald Trump. But it's always interesting. It's interesting to watch Bush, the third member of that family, walk through and basically run his own campaign amidst all this clamor regarding Donald Trump, and he's kind of going steady. And it'll be interesting, Bill, Friday morning in Fort Lauderdale, Jeb Bush and Hillary Clinton are scheduled to address the same group, the National Urban League in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
This Friday?
This Friday morning, yep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, not a lot of people know about it. Bush is definitely on the list, and my understanding is Clinton is also scheduled to speak. It's the National Urban League is holding its annual convention in Fort Lauderdale, and those two, and as well as Ben Carson, Martin O'Malley, and Bernie Sanders are all scheduled to address them on Friday.
The interest Politico this morning, very interesting. In the article where Fox has opened up the kiddie table debate, right? The earlier debate to anybody who's announced. So everybody will be in one debate or the other. But in that same story, I don't know whether you saw it, they list the number of appearances that each Republican candidate has made on Fox since they announced. The number one is Rand Paul, 35 times.
Wow.
And the least is Jeb Bush with only 3 appearances.
That's interesting. I didn't realize there was that few, yes.
So Fox is really kind of showing their...
God. Oh, wow. I'll have to check. Yeah, that's very interesting. I mean, the way Bush is conducting his campaign, I mean, he's getting... to me, I think he's a bigger target among the Republicans than even Trump because so many people are taking shots at him. And for anybody to make a move in that primary, they're going to have to take Bush out because of his money.
Yeah.
So.
I think he's playing it pretty well, though. He's just doing his thing, and he's steady and raising all kinds of money, and I still think he's the most likely candidate. But
this is a bizarre thing for Fox, though. Another thing, they won't say when they're going to announce the cutoff for this debate, whether it's going to be Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, or even Thursday morning. They won't say when they'll make the exact announcement about which 10 candidates will be in the main debate and which candidates will be in the alternative debate. Although it all boils down to, Bill, the only real difference, I think, is Rick Perry and John Kasich are both fighting for that 10th spot in the primetime debate. I think that's the only real question left.
I know. There's also, we got to run, but there's also this thing on on Monday up in New Hampshire. which I'm going to go up for. The forum for everybody but Donald Trump, I think, is going to be.
Right. I'm not sure Hucky's going to be there either, but yeah, that's an interesting one too.
Yeah, that'll be sort of the prelude to the debate. It'll be fun. All right, and we have a briefing today with Eric Schultz at 1 o'clock.
Exactly.
So, David, I'll see you down there. Thank you.
Same here, Bill. Thanks. Bye.
David Jackson, usatoday.com.
This is the Bill Press Show.
What gets you into college? Good SAT scores? High GPA? Lots of extracurriculars?
Sure, but what you really need is money.
If you don't have the cash, you'll need a loan.
And we mean huge student loans because the cost of college has risen 1,000% in the last 30 years.
This means big money for the banks that collect fees and interest.
Now, millions of young people are starting their adult lives with an average of $29,000 of loans on their backs.
Altogether, we're talking $1.2 trillion in student debt.
And more people are finding it impossible to pay them back. Welcome to the student debt crisis.
The increasing demand for higher education and cuts to state funding gave colleges a huge incentive to keep inflating prices.
I graduated about a year ago, currently in $35,000 of debt.
I am in debt about like $25,000.
I owe $23,000. I owe over $50,000 in student loans.
38.8 million Americans owe money on a student loan. And the biggest names in banking are making huge profits off the booming student loan industry. Sallie Mae, the largest provider of private student loans, made $949 million last year.
They only give you about 6 months to look for a job. You have to start paying back the loan. It's very pressuring, especially nowadays. It's very hard to find a job.
Over half of the students graduating in 2012 could not find a decent paying job.
They either had low-wage jobs or unpaid internships or were unemployed altogether.
So you can't make the payments. You start incurring late fees, which makes the loan even harder to pay off.
And it stays with you for years, even decades.
Right now, a third of the people who started repaying their loans are delinquent or in default.
That's 13.7 million people, more than the populations of Chicago, New York, and San Francisco combined.
Worse, it's not just the borrowers who are in trouble. Many loans require co-signers.
So if the student is unable to pay, that co-signer, a father, a mother, or a grandparent, is now on the hook.
Even a grandparent's Social Security benefits can be garnished to pay the loan.
We should have an answer to this. If you get really behind in your car payment or your credit cards, you can file for bankruptcy.
But Congress has made it nearly impossible to discharge student loans through bankruptcy.
Big institutions make big profits while students try to make ends meet under crushing debt.
Is this how we want our education system to work?
The whole point of going to college is to get the career you want, but lately that's been discouraged because no one can afford school. You get a job just to pay off your student loans.
We need higher education, not higher debt.
Sign up to end the student debt crisis at higherednotdebt.org.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Congressman James Clyburn from South Carolina coming up at the top of the next hour, Peter.
You know, The Hill, your good friends
Yes.
at The Hill, we'll talk about this a little bit more, I'm sure. They have their 50 most beautiful people on the Hill.
I know I'm embarrassed every year because I'm always
list.
at the top of the list.
I know. Well, there's some interesting names this year, including Marco Rubio, Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, MSNBC host Chris Jansing, and two names you might recognize.
Chris Jansing, really?
Both of these, Barack and Michelle Obama, making their first appearance on the list.
Really?
Yep.
I mean, well, yeah. They're not on Capitol Hill.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Chris Jansing.
I'm a Piston fan. Their slogan was, "We come to work."
That's what Detroit about. That's why they used it. It's a team thing. They won 2 championships, a team. There was no star. No mayor can come in here and be a star. It's a team thing. No governor should come in here and think you can do it by yourself. It's a team thing. You got communities. They got ideas too. The only thing wrong with Detroit, people have lost hope here. Residents, city workers, so much corruption. They lose hope. But I grew up here. I love this city. I think it can come back. I've been working for the city 24 and a half years. Within the last 10 years, we've took 4 pay cuts, and then an additional 10% wage cut. I've lost a home.
When you take all of the decisions out of the city of Detroit, all of us, then what do you have? Exactly what we got, a lot of problems. Every time the city seems to fall into a problem, it's always on the backs of us workers.
You wake up out of a dead sleep and you jump behind the wheel and take off driving and try to get everybody there safe, not knowing really what you're pulling up to. I'm not eligible for Social Security, so the pension is my sole salary at this point.
We've been in business here 39 years. We've seen a lot of changes in Detroit. The area was a lot of industry, a lot of city workers. It's getting very tough for the city workers. It's getting tough for us as a business people.
Response times are increasing because of the closing of companies, which takes your insurance rate through the roof. So all the things that affect us affect the citizens.
I worked for the city in different capacities for 29 years. I feel like an old jacket. They use me up and they throw me away. In my condition, nobody's gonna hire me. I'm 68 years old. Half the times, I can't get my blood pressure medicine. It's either feeding myself, blood pressure, or paying bills.
$754. By the time they take all the deductions for I have my car insurance, my house insurance, and my health insurance taken out. So the time they take all that, I'll get about $300 after they take all that out. I don't understand it. I can't see how the governor is allowing this to happen and what they're doing and they want to blame it all on the seniors. Not only the seniors, but the city workers. And we worked hard. I know I worked hard.
I've been in Detroit since 1946. I was 14 years old when I came in. I don't live large at all. I wish I could. I don't know when the last time I've been shopping. I only get $1,100, and I'm 81 years old, and I need every penny that I can get and that I do get. And I'm very, very upset about the idea of them taking away my pensions that I worked 30 years for.
I think it's terrible about Detroit like they do, because Detroit has been very good to me.
I have a lot of city workers coming in with their uniforms on, Detroit Water Department, Police Department, Fire Department. I get a lot of people, the Border Patrol come in. So if I lose that customer base, I'm going to be in a position where I might have to close down. If they take away their pensions, if they start cutting jobs, it's going to cut into a large percentage of not only our business, but other businesses that are in the city of Detroit. We're here. We've been here for 26 years. We're still trying to do business in the city.
Detroiters are survivors. They tough. They adapt. But only can do so much when your politicians ahead of you and we're not on the same team. We're not going to let Detroit be erased, bulldozed to where. We're going to fight to the bitter end. Detroit going to survive.
Just this month, my bill was like $138.
Even at one phone call a week cost me $40 to $50 every month.
I am living on a fixed income of SSI, so this is really a great hardship. Families are being punished. When they incarcerate your children, they incarcerate the whole family.
In 2011, the Media Action Grassroots Network, Working Narratives, and Prison Legal News founded the Campaign for Prison Phone Justice, an effort to call on the FCC to address the cost of interstate phone calls. The campaign mobilized prisoners to send hundreds of letters. Advocates and families filled out postcards, met with elected officials, and signed petitions. Partnerships were formed across the political spectrum and with groups in the criminal justice, civil rights, and public interest community. The film distribution company Participant Media and director Ava DuVernay joined the fight through a social action campaign tied to the release of the feature film Middle of Nowhere. In an effort to push the FCC to act, the campaign hosted a historic rally outside of the Federal Communications Commission where for the first time, families of prisoners, elected officials, civil rights and faith leaders came together to call for an end to predatory phone rates.
We're all held captive when predatory phone companies gouge our families.
My son has been incarcerated now for over 10 years, and my husband estimates that in the time we spent over $25,000 on prison phone calls.
My hero's not yours, you probably arrested them. Your schools probably neglected them. They spawn thoughts, you probably infected them. Feed us what you feed us, you can lay us next to them. FBI call it major crimes. Babies making babies cry.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
It's a match made in heaven. Are you ready? Donald Trump says Sarah Palin will definitely be part of his administration, a cabinet post. Hey, what the hell? Why not vice president? Yeah, John McCain tried it. Sure. What a joke. Can't get any worse. Hello, everybody. What do you say? It is Wednesday, July 29. This is the Bill Press Show, and you are part of it, and we are glad you are. Thank you for joining us. We've got a lot to talk about on this Wednesday. Not only Donald Trump and Sarah Palin, but this crazed dentist, sick dentist in Minnesota. From Eden Prairie, Bloomington, Minnesota, who is the man identified now as having killed the beloved Cecil the lion in Zimbabwe illegally, and he's wanted by officials in Zimbabwe, and I think we ought to send him back there and let them do whatever they want with him. We got that. President Obama is home from Africa, and the House yesterday deciding, hell, they worked hard enough this year not getting anything done, so they're going to take the next 7 weeks off while we pay them to go to the beach. Lots to talk about. 866-55-PRESS is the toll-free number you're going to want to use to get into the conversation. You can also send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show with Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy.
Hello, Bill.
Hey, good morning.
Jamie Benson on the phones and Monty Chancellor, our videographer for the day, waiting for the return of Cyprian maybe next Monday.
I saw a good picture of Cyprian on Instagram yesterday. He found a barber shop in Paris. Go get his hair cut while he was in Paris. So he's still there.
How many hair?
I know, right?
Oh, no. Those are fighting words right there.
It's not that he's bald.
No, but
he keeps it short.
Very
He needs to get a little shape up.
Short.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't think after a week in Paris he would need a haircut.
Yeah. Cyprian, he keeps it nice and tight up top, man.
Okay. So we're going to be joined here soon by the Congressman, Honorable James Clyburn from South Carolina. Spent a lot of time last hour talking about the outrage of the day, total outrage of the day. This, I'm sure you've heard about it now, this dentist from Minnesota, Walter James Palmer, who's been identified in Zimbabwe as the man who lured this beautiful and beloved lion Cecil out of a national reserve and killed it. The two men who helped him have been arrested in Zimbabwe, and Zimbabwe officials are now saying they've identified this American as the man who killed him. Discussing, we'll be talking more about that throughout the hour and taking your calls. But right now, speaking of a call, we have a very important caller on the line. One of our best friends of the program here, fighting the good fight on behalf of all progressive Democrats in the United States House of Representatives every day, from South Carolina, Peter's home state.
Yes, indeed.
The Honorable James Clyburn. Hello, Mr. Congressman. It's good to talk to you again.
Well, thank you so much for having me. How are you this morning?
Everything is good. Everything is good. And so are you guys now officially on break, Congressman?
After votes today, I think the break starts. For some strange reason, the Speaker on yesterday informed us that he's going to bring things to a screeching halt after business today. But Democrats are going to stay around here for a while. He'll have a press conference in the morning to take a look at some of the things that we left undone, including fixing the Voting Rights Act that the Supreme Court has asked us to update. But for some strange reason, the Republicans are refusing to do what the Supreme Court asked us to do.
Well, meanwhile, Congressman, there are several states that are moving to really restrict voting rights. Notably, your neighboring state of North Carolina, but that's not the only one.
No, my home state of South Carolina
also
sort of led on that. In fact, we came out with some pretty draconian new laws even before the Supreme Court issued its decision. At least North Carolina waited until that decision came. My home state anticipated the decision as if something had been telegraphed and came up with some new laws to restrict and suppress voter participation and turnout.
What is it? What do they say is behind this, Congressman? I mean, our most fundamental basic right in this country as Americans, right, is the right to vote, and not enough people exercise it enough. But still, one would think that our energy should be toward encouraging more people to vote and making it easier for more people to vote.
Well, Bill, I think what happened here is that the Republicans do a very good job of assessing where the mood of the country is, where their constituents, how those constituents are thinking. And what they have done is tap into this natural suspicion that exists about government and about public officials. And they have conjured up this notion of massive voter fraud taking place in the country.
Which is just not true, right?
It's just absolutely not true. But, you know, I come from a state that has been worshiping the Confederate battle flag for decades, since the 1960s. You and I know the Confederate battle flag went on top of the South Carolina State House dome back in 1962. Yet they say that's their heritage that they have been celebrating since the Civil War. Well, it's not their heritage, but they have played into these kinds of notions, and they get a certain amount of acceptance for this chicanery by highlighting things that definitely is not true, but they touch at certain emotions that people have. And so that's what has happened here. There are people who think that Barack Obama is an illegitimate president, that he got elected because of something untoward taking place at the voting booths. So that's what has happened here. and people are saying, well, I remember a couple of pretty popular TV hosts saying voter ID is necessary. Well, I used to live 2 or 3 doors from my poll manager. Saw him every day. We grew up fraternity brothers. But every time I walked to the polling booth, I presented him with my ID. So it's not about IDing voters. They have put under this umbrella of voter ID, getting rid of Sunday voting, getting rid of early voting. So what does ID have to do with when you vote? ID is to determine who is voting. So there's never been any question about who has been voting. The question is about how they have been voting. And so we don't want them to vote because they aren't voting for us.
That's what it boils down to, I think. Now, would your legislation, Congressman, would it take precedence over the state attempts to suppress the vote? I mean, would there be some national standards then?
Absolutely. It would go back to what it's been since 1965. We are going to be celebrating. Next week I'll be in Minneapolis, Minnesota, helping the National Black Journalists celebrate their annual meeting, which will be on the 50th anniversary, August 6th, of the 1965 Voting Rights Act. And we will be calling attention to the fact that this formula that was put in place back in 1965 to get rid of this kind of chicanery, things like what we call poll taxes and other forms of discrimination against voters. We want to say to states, you cannot just change a voting place without adequately informing people. You cannot just deny voter rights to people because you don't like the results that come out of the elections. And so this focus on these minority precincts that is taking place in the last several months. Look at what they did up in Ohio, where they collapsed 3 and 4 voting places into one to create long lines to discourage people from voting. This kind of stuff we go after with these amendments, and I don't know why that is something that my Republican friends would not like to see done.
Well, it's not the only item left undone, right, with Congress fleeing town. I'm thinking of the Highway Trust Fund bill.
The Highway Trust Fund expires at the end of this month. It looks like we're going to do another for the 35th time short-term patch. How can states and localities plan big highway projects when the funding is 3 and 4 months at a time? They can't do it. The XM back that makes our businesses competitive with other foreign countries, that is coming to an end, and we're leaving without dealing with that. So there are a lot of things that will terminate the end of this month and next that we won't be here to deal with when the end comes.
On the, we're talking again to Congressman James Clyburn from South Carolina, representing the 6th District of South Carolina. How about the Iran deal, Congressman? When will that come up for a vote? Let me ask you first of all. You've had a chance, I'm sure, to review it so far. Are you a vote for the Iran deal?
I will absolutely vote for it. I don't see any legitimate alternative to this, except maybe a war. And the country is tired of war. Let's give diplomacy a chance. This whole notion is that this is good for 15 years, and after 15 years, what? Well, if you've got 15 years to practice getting along with each other, who knows? It may break out and be a good thing. When I hear people talk about us not being able to get along with the Iranians, how much trade are we doing with China? I remember as a kid growing up, before Nixon went there, China was a place that we did not want to have anything to do with. How much trading are we doing with Russia?
Vietnam.
Vietnam. Yeah. I mean, these are, it's just crazy. If we believe so strongly in democracy, then let's give democracy a chance to take root in some of these other countries. And who knows, they may like it, they may fall in love with it, and we may all live happily ever after.
And you think President Obama will end up getting the votes for the Iran deal?
Yes, I do. And he won't get a majority vote, but under the deal, if he doesn't like what Congress does, he can veto it, and then it'll be up to Congress to override or sustain the veto. I predict that the votes are there to sustain his veto.
And I know before you leave town, the president has invited all of you down to the White House this afternoon for a little reception in the East Room. I'm sure you'll be going down there and hear all the stories about his African trip, which seems to be a great Congressman.
It was a tremendous success, and I regret not being able to go. My wife has been having some health challenges, and I decided not to leave the country. But about 20 of my colleagues, maybe 25 counting the Senate, went on the trip. And I have talked twice by telephone with them as they were leaving Kenya, and then again last evening as they were leaving Ethiopia. It seems to have been a tremendous success, and I applaud the president for, I think, adding to his legacy in this big way. Leaving, I think, one big thing that I would hope that all of us will tackle in a bipartisan way, and that's some real judicial reform that has to take place in this country.
Right. That's another item that's still undone, but the president's making a lot of headway on that, and I know he's even got some Republican support for that. So there's a lot going on. Well, Congressman, enjoy your time, and thank you for fighting the good fight, and thanks especially for joining us this morning.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me.
All right.
Very good.
There he is, Congressman James Clyburn from South Carolina. Peter, you're on stage. By the way, that's a big vote for President Obama.
Huge vote.
To have Honorable James Clyburn. I haven't heard that he's announced before that he's going to support the deal, but he carries a lot of weight. A lot of people follow his lead in the House. Good for him.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness.
My beauty.
My power.
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired.
Tapped.
And tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Jordan Fabian from The Hill, covers the White House for The Hill, will be here in studio with us after the half hour. Just talking to Congressman James Clyburn, among unfinished business left with the House leaving on vacation today. Left behind with the House leaving on vacation today is the issue of voting rights. Steve on the line from out in Madison, Wisconsin on 92.1 The Mic. Hello, Steve. What's up?
Yes, I'd just like to make a comment. You know, we send observers to foreign countries and third world countries to make sure people are able to vote properly.
Yeah, right.
But we have such a patchwork of odious voting laws where people are discouraged from voting and just crazy rules.
They're disenfranchised in many states. They really are, many different ways.
And in Wisconsin here, the current chairman of Scott Walker's campaign committee, a gentleman by the name of Michael Grebe, he's he's also chairman of this foundation called the Bradley Foundation. And last election, they paid for billboards put in African-American neighborhoods, threatening, saying it's a felony to commit voter fraud, and just in those neighborhoods.
Oh, yeah. Is that right?
And,
right.
Yes.
Which is a, first of all, the Congressman pointed out, the examples, the evidence of voter fraud is like non-existent, right? But you put up billboards like that, and that's just to frighten people from taking a chance, maybe, of going to vote, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. Put up by the Bradley Foundation. We'll have to check that out. One more reason to vote against Scott Walker, as if anybody were considering it. Scott Walker, whom we learned yesterday, thanks, Steve, for the call. And we learned yesterday, Scott Walker doesn't even know how to order cheesesteak. at
true.
Pat or Gino's in
That's
Philadelphia.
true.
You know,
It's 100% true.
How can you be president of the United States if you don't know how to order a cheesesteak and don't finish your cheesesteak to begin with? Jordan Fabian standing by
This
from the hill.
is
coming
the
up
Bill
next.
Press Show.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts. Stop the wrecks.
Before now, it's been difficult for criminals like us to know which states have loose gun laws. How would a criminal like me know which states permit me to carry loaded guns in their amusement parks, golf courses, or beaches?
I have some violent friends. We all wear leather jackets and scream at women. And we want to find out which states we can buy and sell guns easily.
CrimAdvisor.com. That's the site to find out where it's easiest for felons and fugitives to buy, carry, and even traffic guns.
That's why I love Arizona, where I can go see the beautiful Grand Canyon and carry a loaded gun without even having to get a background check.
You would fail that background check.
I'm sure of it. Now, what about a road trip? What states can I go to fill my trunk with guns and take it back home for my even more dangerous friends?
CrimAdvisor has a list for that.
That's so unreasonable.
Our traffickers' top 10.
Nevada. What happens in Vegas may have to stay in Vegas, but your guns don't. Bring them over to California and sell them.
The market up there is hungry. Hungry for guns.
I understand that CrimAdvisor.com will tell me which states really cater to us criminals and creeps, but what about the states where we're not so welcome? The ones that don't get us?
I don't even like saying the name of these states, but California, Connecticut, Maryland, and New York all have laws to keep guns out of the hands of people like us.
I want to shoot California so bad.
Boo, California.
Boo, go home. Wow. CrimAdvisor.com has all this information?
Sure does.
CrimAdvisor.com. Plan your perfect getaway. Oh, like TripAdvisor.
Oh.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies. In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania. Fracking pollutes our oceans. Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now. Please.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, here we go, 33 minutes after the hour. Yes, indeed, it is the Bill Press Show on a Wednesday, July 29. We're here in our nation's capital, at our studio on Capitol Hill. We're brought to you today by the International Brotherhood of Teamsters. Yep, great Teamsters Union under their president Jim Hoffa. We all live better because of their good work. Find out more about it at their website, teamster.org. Teamster.org. Well, I got to tell you, if you want to know what's going on here in Washington, D.C., at this end of Pennsylvania Avenue, the United States, down at the White House, just check out The Hill, thehill.com. And at the White House, of course, you'll be reading the good work of Jordan Fabian, who covers the White House for The Hill, and joins us in studio again this morning. Jordan, it's good to see you.
Good to see you too, Bill.
You're just back from Africa. Did you just got off the plane?
I did not go on the trip. However, I did cover some of the speeches very early in the morning here on the East Coast.
Yeah, and the president got back about 6 hours ago, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So let's just hope he's still asleep.
Yeah, I think we can give him a pass to sleep in a little bit today, right?
I would hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He maybe deserves it.
I think he does. Now, again, when we go to the Hill, big news, breaking news on the Hill, you go to The Hill, thehill.com, and when you do so today, you see the biggest story of the day, the 50 most beautiful people on Capitol Hill. Jordan.
Bill's very upset he's not on the list.
What's this all about? I didn't make the list again.
Oh, my God. So sorry. What's this? What's the losing streak for you now?
How long have you been doing it?
How long have I been in Washington? Right. Exactly. Yeah. Right. So how do you put this list together? And number one and number two, Michelle Obama and Barack Obama. You're just trying to suck up here to the president. What are you trying to get the big interview, Jordan? Is that what it is?
Yeah, you never know.
Whatever it takes, right?
Right. Well, our In the Know editor, Judy Kurtz, works very hard on this issue. And
this is Judy's?
Yes, this is her baby. And, she works very hard on it, takes so many applications from people. I did a few of the interviews myself.
Do people actually submit names, right? They nominate for friends? Or,
yeah. People nominate for friends. Some people probably nominate themselves.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's a lot of names to sort through.
And you say you did some of the interviews. I mean, to find out if they're the most beautiful people, you don't have to interview them. You just look at them, right? No?
Yeah, but we got to find out what their beauty secret is, Bill. We got to sort of find out their ways. So it's very important.
I don't know. I think less and less. The more I hear about this, the less I like it. But, so to get down to 50, any idea how many people are nominated?
I'm not sure, but it's a lot. It's a lot.
That right?
We have a lot of work to go through. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And with this accolade, what comes with this accolade?
We can go around town and say you're one of the most 50 beautiful people in Washington. That's pretty big. Yeah.
Right.
Everyone in Washington loves a good list.
There's no cash.
No catch.
No. Cash.
Oh, no cash? No. No catch. They're going to come out and get hit by a frying pan or something.
No catch, no cash. Right. But you just
no cash.
I guess it's probably just a good pickup line, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I was on the 50 most beautiful list.
Oh, by the way, I recognize you. Aren't you on the Hill?
Yeah, you might recognize me from...
yes.
Do you ever see the Hill's 50 most beautiful people in Washington? Yeah, I was on that list.
Yeah, I was on that list.
That's not a bad pickup line.
All right, check it out, thehill.com, and see, maybe you know some of the people on the list, or you'd like to know some of the people
Hill
on the
staffers,
list.
like as in people who work for the Hill, are not eligible. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
For the newspaper.
For the newspaper, the Hill,
yeah.
right.
Yeah. But most of the people who make the list are Hill staffers.
Right.
Yeah, Hill staffers, folks at the White
members.
House, some journalists, some lobbyists, people who are, in D.C.
I didn't even check. Are you on the list?
He works for the Hill.
Yeah,
he works for the Hill.
On the Hill. You can't be.
That would be against the rules.
Otherwise, you'd be there, I'm sure. Okay.
Of course.
Now you'll know what's up when you see that Bob Cusack has stepped down from the Hill. He's actually wants to be in the running.
Right, exactly. All right, so when the president does finally wake up today, is he going to look back on this African trip and say, mission accomplished?
It's hard to say. I think this trip was, mostly symbolic in a lot of ways. He wasn't really pushing a major policy agenda there. Yes, he was talking about economic development, democracy, increasing power supply for Africa. But the big story of the trip was, him going back to his father's homeland, and that was sort of the big storyline there. And Honestly, a lot of the biggest headlines there that were generated were about the 2016 campaign and the Iran deal. So mission accomplished. Maybe he finally did get to go back and fulfill that promise to go to Kenya, but again, this is mostly a symbolic thing, no real policy agenda there.
It was interesting that he did not. You and I were both there when Susan Rice briefed us before the trip, and questions were raised. Would he go? There's some hot button issues. Would he stay away from those? And she said, he is who he is basically, and if the occasion arises, he's not going to hold back. And he didn't hold back.
No, he had a very testy exchange with the Kenyan president over gay rights at their press conference, which is not something you usually see at these press conferences, two leaders disagreeing.
Right.
But he did slip up a little bit in Ethiopia when he called their government democratically elected twice during that press conference. And even as Susan Rice and others in the Obama administration have admitted, there were some major problems with that election. The government received 100% of the vote. So
I was going to say, they were democratically elected. What's wrong with getting 100% of the vote, right? Yeah. Makes you suspect what's going on.
What was amazing, even the Kenyan or the Ethiopian prime minister got up there and said, we admit we have some problems here. So that was also a little surprising to hear.
And Mike Huckabee gave him a layup, for a reason and an opportunity to talk about the 2016 election 5,000 or 6,000 miles away.
Oh, yeah. He did not hesitate at the chance to go after Mike Huckabee and Donald Trump and Ted Cruz and Tom Cotton. So
all by name.
Yeah, he really... two birds with one stone there. It's interesting because he's sometimes been reluctant to weigh in on the 2016 campaign. What I've heard from the White House is they don't like to single out individual candidates because it's good for them in the Republican primary field when the president goes after him. But he's trying to make a vigorous case on this Iran deal, and he thought he had to respond to what Mike Huckabee said.
Well, it's interesting because we've seen on several occasions, multiple occasions, Josh Earnest, the press secretary, has declined to comment to say anything about Donald Trump or Mike Huckabee or any of them, basically saying, that's up to you guys. You guys report on it. You guys decide, right? But the president didn't hold back at all.
It's very selective when he goes after him. You remember you were at the Iran press conference the day after the deal, and John Carl tried to ask him about Donald Trump, and the president cut him off right away. So he did not want to talk about it that day, but he was totally cool talking about it when he was in Africa.
Right. So that is obviously the number one item on his agenda, one would say, coming back. He's got all the Democrats down at the White House tonight. I'm sure he wants to wish them a happy summer vacation, but there's another item on the agenda. This is part of his lobbying campaign for the Iran deal.
Yes.
I think the golf game was, even though Josh Earnest denied it to you, to me, to everybody else in the briefing room. And how's it? And then, of course, we saw John Kerry and Ernest Moniz on the Hill, one of many appearances on the Hill yesterday. How's it stacking up? What do you read? What do they hear? Are they confident they're going to have the votes?
I think they're confident they're going to get there eventually. They're not there right now. A lot of the Democrats who they need to get their support, Chuck Schumer, for example, Elliot Engel on the House Foreign Affairs Committee are still skeptical of the deal. Ben Cardin, another guy in the Senate who's a key player. But they did have one big name come out of it, come out in support of it yesterday. It was Sandy Levin, who's the longest-serving Jewish Democrat in the House, announced the support for the deal. So
it's a big name get. And a big get. Yeah, it is, right.
I think a lot of people thought he eventually would get on board, but him coming out so early in the process, I think might allow some of the other skeptics of the deal to have some political cover to say, okay, I can support this.
Leader Pelosi, I believe, has come out in support of the
yes, and she was an early supporter. I think she organized a letter with 150 House Democrats early in the negotiation supporting it. So she's been out there, but obviously a lot of Democrats with ties to the pro-Israel community who represent Jewish districts are going to have more trouble supporting this because of the pressure they're facing from the other side.
Right. And just at the top of this hour, we had Congressman James Clyburn from South Carolina on, who was also said he's a very strong backer of the deal. If he probably has signed that letter from Leader Pelosi, I'm not sure, but yes, he said he believes that you got to be for it because the only alternative that he's heard is war, right? And that's the message of the White House.
Oh, absolutely. They're trying to frame this as a sort of a one of two choices, and the critics of the deal obviously say that's a false choice, and they could have negotiated a better deal. And so that's the argument that's playing out right now.
Which is what John Kerry calls the unicorn fantasy.
Right.
Insights at the White House to what's going on there and on the Hill from Jordan Fabian from the Hill. We'll continue when we come back. Your questions, your comments, 866-55-PRESS. Join the conversation.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is why you took a second job. While you taught yourself how to fix the plumbing. While you'll do whatever it takes to keep your home. And that is why we want to help. We are making home affordable, a free government resource that can make paying the mortgage easier. Call 888-995-HOPE today.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
And online. This is the Bill Press Show.
13 minutes before the top of the hour, Jesse Berney from the Blue Nation Review will be along at the top of the next hour, as well as Tim Mack from the Daily Beast, who's in a little hot water these days, maybe, or has stirred things up a little bit the last couple of days by reporting on the allegations made, rape allegations made years ago against Donald Trump. And we'll have Tim Mack tell us how that story is playing out sometime in the next hour. Right now we're visiting with Jordan Fabian from The Hill. about things on the Hill and down at the White House. So, Jordan, today, Congressman Clyburn just confirmed, John Boehner put out the word. We have an August vacation coming up. Well, it's only July 29, but we're already tired of hanging around Washington, so we're going home today.
Yes.
2 days early, leaving a lot of things undone, which means what for the White House? That basically, for the next 8 weeks, it's just going to be nothing happening and coasting and just shut down, basically, right?
Yeah, well, the president's going to be in Martha's Vineyard on vacation, but they're going to
for like 3 weeks.
Quite a while. But they'll be pressing, I think, a lot of their agenda items. One of the things they're starting to talk about more and more is this Paris climate agreement that they want at the end of the year. And so you've heard the president and some of his aides sort of start talking about that more frequently than we've heard them in the past. But another big thing is...
and by the way, just if I interjecting, and the Pope will be coming on the 24th of September for a joint address to a joint session of Congress, as well as meeting with the president down at the White House. So the Pope will add some support for that.
Yeah, and a key player on Obama's move to open up relations with Cuba. So I'm sure that will be on the agenda.
And he comes here from Cuba. Yeah.
Yes.
So he'll probably come here with both messages, which are probably not messages John Boehner would like to hear, but he may hear them regardless. Right. You started to mention another item.
Oh, yeah, criminal justice reform. Another thing the president wants to see happen. It's going to be tough for that bill, I think. John Boehner has said that he wants a vote, which is pretty big. But now with the highway bill getting kicked to the fall and a budget fight that looks like the differences are so wide that we could even be facing another government shutdown, there might not be so much room to bring up that sort of legislation, at least this year. Maybe they get to it at the beginning of next year, but we'll see. I mean, it's going to be tough. There's a busy schedule in the fall.
They keep mentioning Rand Paul is one who's talked about this as a big supporter, but obviously Rand Paul is preoccupied these days with other issues. So I'm not sure how much help they could get out of Rand Paul in leading, if they count on him to lead the charge in the Senate toward criminal justice reform.
Yeah, and if you saw that, there was an article in Politico yesterday that was talking about how his campaign's in trouble, and you really haven't heard much from Rand Paul recently. So
no, he's kind of disappeared off the map.
I think that's a good point.
On the other hand, Chuck Grassley, chairman of Senate Judiciary now, who was always an opponent of criminal justice reform, has really come around on the issue and said, this is something we've got to be talking about. And he has said that he will have a bill. I just read that this morning. He'll have a bill, I think he said by the end of the summer, end of August, when they come back, that he'll have could get bipartisan support to do something about these mandatory sentencing guidelines, which are or sentencing mandates almost, which have resulted in particularly a disproportionate number of young African Americans in prison for nonviolent drug offenses.
Yeah, I think Grassley is really going to be the one to watch here to see whether this actually gets through the Senate. Like you said, he's a former opponent of this, now a supporter, but a lot of advocates and the White House are watching whether this bill actually lives up to their standards, whether it goes far enough to reduce those mandatory minimum sentences. And I know the White House and his office are talking behind the scenes and trying to, get something done. And I guess we'll have to see what type of product Senator Grassley puts out.
Do you think we will see more commutations and perhaps even more pardons from President Obama if this legislation doesn't move, or even if it does?
I think we'll see it no matter what. He went to the president in Oklahoma last week and announced a bunch of pardons there. I think commutations, and I think it was the biggest batch that he's done yet. And he said that he'll do it no matter if Congress acts or not. And they have the big clemency project going on where tens of thousands of inmates have applied for their sentences to be reduced. So that's a big list to go through. So I'm sure we'll see more.
All right. So what is the latest? There's something, these things, you just forget about them for a while. Keystone Pipeline. Are we ever, do you think they're going to make a decision on this?
It's taken them, 7 years?
Yeah. I mean, before President Obama leaves office?
I think the people who know aren't talking, and the people who are talking don't know. That's
a good way to put it.
Yeah, and You saw Hillary Clinton yesterday.
I was going to bring up Hillary. Yeah, I mean, it was a non-answer as to whether or not what she was going to do.
She said that's President Obama's decision. Actually, it was her decision as Secretary of State. She never made a decision. So it's not the president's decision until the State Department makes its recommendation.
And that's
we know
the
where
line.
John Kerry stands on the pipeline. We never really knew where Hillary did, although I think she was for it. It seemed to be. Kerry's against it. So she said she's not going to, that's the president's decision. She's not going to preempt it. But she said, if I'm president, then I'll tell you.
That's a really astounding answer. I mean, it really is. To say, you'll have to elect me to find out where I stand on the Keystone Pipeline.
Think about that. Right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean,
but I don't think the White House is in any hurry. To take a stand.
And this might be this might be something that gets kicked to the final year of the presidency, and we'll see.
Right.
Yeah.
December 2016. All right. Hey, Jordan, great to see you. 1 o'clock today with Eric Schultz at the briefing. We'll see you there.
See you there, yeah.
All right. Right back and tell you if the president has anything at all in the schedule today. We'll tell you when we're back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Here we go, third hour coming up here. Don't forget, on Free Speech TV, a little delay until you can watch the third hour until 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific, to Central. I got it backwards. 4 Central, 2 Pacific. But you can watch right away, that's the point, on Talker TV, youtube.com/Talker, TAWKR TV. And Blue Nation's Jesse Berney is going to be here in studio with us at the top of the next hour. And then we'll be joined by Tim Mack, senior congressional correspondent for the Daily Beast. He's the one who broke the story about Donald Trump being accused of spousal rape. Lots coming up. A hot third hour, so don't miss it.
A few years ago, plastic bag waste in our city came to a tipping point. It was clear we had a bag problem. My department was tasked to reduce plastic bag consumption. We needed to come up with ways to change human behavior. So we asked ourselves,
would you like it back?
What do people really hate?
Yep.
Getting punched in the stomach. Preliminary studies showed that the consequences weren't severe enough to warrant behavioral change.
Actually, can I get that double bagged?
So we thought, what do people hate more than getting punched in the stomach? Kissing Helga.
Hey, big boy.
People didn't find her so offensive after all, so we had to get creative.
How many bags? Okay, now, pour this ice water down your pants.
We tried everything.
Eat this rat. Defuse this bomb.
Even fighting your clone. After blowing through millions of dollars of government funds on research, I came up with a brilliant idea.
Why don't we just charge 5 cents per bag?
That's a stupid idea.
Would you like a bag?
Yes.
5 cents a bag.
5 cents? 5 cents? Do I still have the option of getting punched?
Honestly, I don't know how everyone else missed it.
Why don't you just get a reusable bag?
All All right, President Obama is back from Africa. Maybe he's getting up about this time. I don't know. I hope he sleeps in. He might as well, because there's nothing on his official schedule until about 5 o'clock this afternoon, where he will be welcoming House Democrats to a big reception in the East Room of the White House. And we have our daily briefing with Deputy Press Secretary Eric Schultz at 1 o'clock.
This
We'll be right
is
back.
the Bill Press Show.
The hardest moments for me is when I'm laying awake in the middle of the night and I'm thinking about all the times I made a pitcher of Kool-Aid with the water, or I boiled a pot of corn or potatoes with the water. Those thoughts just stick with me in the middle of the night, and I feel horrible as a mom that I didn't know that something was wrong, but how could I have known? There's no way I would have known.
The spill at Dan River happened when a drainage pipe that ran underneath an ash basin and dam collapsed, sucking out 6 decades of waste and spewing gunk directly into the river.
My husband and I just kind of looked at each other like, should we be concerned? We live right next to an ash pond, and this was coal ash spilling into the Dan River, and we learned at that point all of the toxins that were included in coal ash.
A situation like Dan River, where there was a catastrophic disaster, gets people's attention, but the fact is that these coal ash pits have been leaking and poisoning people's groundwater and the state's surface waters for decades. Coal ash is the residue left behind after coal is burned in a coal-fired power plant. A large coal-fired power plant can burn 10 million tons of coal a year. When the organic matter in the coal is burned away, what's left behind are these trace minerals, things like arsenic, lead, mercury, selenium, and chromium. And these are highly concentrated. The coal ash can have concentrations of these contaminants that are 10 to 100 times greater than the level in the coals themselves.
Coal ash pond number 1 is right behind my house, literally pretty much in my backyard. We were approached by a neighbor who was wanting to have their well tested, and we decided that maybe we should have ours tested as well. They found hexavalent chromium at 4.5 parts per billion.
So in talking to the residents, we have discovered anecdotal evidence of an extraordinary number of cancers for this fairly small community.
Some of us in the community got together. We started kind of talking about all the cancer that we've seen in some of our family friends in this community. I think we had somewhere in the neighborhood of around 70 names. So we had some help from our river keepers putting a map together, and it was a little shocking to see it. You know, I still have a hard time looking at it.
Technically, EPA has not regulated coal ash as a hazardous waste, but it is undeniable that coal ash contains many, many hazardous substances that are hazardous, in fact, to people and the environment. And the only reason they have not been regulated as such is because of intense lobbying efforts by the coal industry and its allies.
A lot of these chemicals are simple elements, but when you find them at the levels that they exist in around coal ash ponds, then you're starting to talk about cancer, brain tumors, you're talking about birth defects, developmental problems, neurotoxicity.
began to look at legal options, cases that we could bring in court to protect communities and their citizens from these toxic leaking time bombs. In 2002, North Carolina enacted a public financing mechanism for judicial elections. This kept private money out of judicial elections.
The repeal of the public financing program in judicial elections in North Carolina creates a dangerous precedent for all, and it gives corporate polluters and other special interests the opportunity to elect the judges that they want. And this is important for us all. Everyone should care about this, because when you think about the fact that the state and the federal government have basically abdicated their responsibility to regulate these issues, the state courts are the last stopgap.
I think this is no longer a problem that's going to go under the radar. It has been exposed, and I am confident that we will ultimately, with the facts, win out and ensure that we have protected waterways.
And so this is something that we all should care about. If we're worried about the water we drink and the air we breathe, we have to be concerned about money in judicial elections.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Oh, well, now we don't have to worry about supporting Donald Trump for president because he announced yesterday that Sarah Palin will be a member of his cabinet if elected. There you go. As if you needed another reason not to vote for him. Hello, everybody. What do you say? Gets crazier and crazier every day on that side of the aisle. Wednesday, July 29, The Bill Press Show. Here with you all across this great land of ours on the radio, your progressive, local progressive talk radio station. The two great radio apps, TuneIn and iHeartRadio, both free. Put them on your device and we're on the radio with you anywhere you go in the United States of America. And, of course, we're there with you on TV, on Free Speech TV as well. Thank you for joining us today. And don't forget, we want to hear from you about what do you think about the issues of the day. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Send us your acid comments on Twitter at BP Show. And we promise not to steal them the way Conan O'Brien apparently does, allegedly does. And send us your comments on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy leading up things today.
Hello, Bill.
Hey, good morning.
With Jamie Benson, ready to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. Monty Kensler is our videographer for the day, and we welcome back to the program a good friend from Blue Nation Reviews, senior editor Jesse Berney. Jesse, hello. Nice to see you.
Hi, Bill. Thanks for having me.
And I see another face in the camera here in the control room today.
A very pretty face.
Very, very nice.
Yeah, that's Isabel, who's also actually she's not.
Hi, Isabel.
An official employee at Blue Nation Review, but she has starred in some Blue Nation Review videos with me.
Oh, nice.
A couple of them. Yeah, she's
Is that
coming.
right?
She does. Yeah, she was. We did a video recently where she was reading quotes from the GOP candidates. It was she's amazing.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. They're great.
It's
She does
nice.
a great job.
I've brought my kids in before, Gray
Yeah.
and Magnus. John Allen brings his son Asher in. It's nice that someone brought their daughter in.
Yeah, I remember I met your son the first day.
Oh, that's
I
right.
came in here.
Yeah, you were here for taking your kid to work day.
Good to have Isabel here. My mother's name, Isabel. Beautiful name. I've always loved it. So thank you for coming in. Now, Jesse, in this media business, it's important. Sometimes you get it right, sometimes you don't get it right. And we always welcome guests in, and we like to know as much about the guest as host, right? So you know how to introduce them and the right things to say. And sometimes you can try so hard to say the right thing, but it doesn't work. It happened to poor Jake Tapper yesterday when he was saying goodbye to presidential candidate Ben Carson.
Thanks so much for joining us. This is the first time I've seen you since you lost your mother, and I just wanted to say my deepest condolences on your loss. I know she meant a great deal to you.
Well, I appreciate that, but she actually sprang back.
Oh, God.
Sprang back?
It looked like she was on her deathbed. We all went down to say our final goodbyes. Everybody started praying, and she sprang back.
Oh, my God. I didn't get the memo. I just saw the news and said my condolences. Well, that's the best news I've heard all day.
It is wonderful.
Dr. Ben Carson, thank you so much.
Wow.
Whoa!
Wow!
What an awkward moment, huh?
It's very awkward. I'm glad for Ben Carson that his mom. I'm not a Ben Carson fan, but I'm very glad for him that his mother is still with us, and that's a little awkward. Yeah,
that's a tough nosedive.
Well, I think though I think better that way than the other way. It would be much worse if Jake Tapper was like, "Oh, how's your mom doing?" And actually she died.
Yeah,
that would be way worse.
That's right. It could have been worse.
Yeah.
Well, I do have to say that Jake handled it about as well as he could have, given the circumstances.
Didn't that happen to someone recently? Who was it? Somebody.
Biden had one of these not that long. It was a couple years ago. I think it was with there was a visit. Someone was visiting from another country. And he talked about his mother, who's no longer with us, and there was a little bit of an uproar from the crowd. He goes, she's still with us. Yeah, she's still with us. God love her. She's doing just fine.
There was someone on the Today Show. I'm bringing it up. I can't remember who it was. There was someone on the Today Show where the opposite did happen, where they talked about somebody's wife. And she had died, and they'd forgotten she died. I wish I could remember who it was, but
that's tough to pull out.
We'll look it up at the break. But
all right. Anyhow, Jesse Berney here with us. We've got lots to talk about, and then a little bit later, Tim Mack from the Daily Beast will be joining us as well. But first,
this
big news
is
of
the
the day.
Full Court Press.
Oh yeah, all the big stories making news. So the Toy Fair 2015 just ended. It's all the greatest and latest toys that are coming out onto the toy market, and Nerf unveiled their new gun. It is a Nerf gun called the Rival, and it shoots Nerf balls 70 miles per hour.
God.
Right?
It's like a weapon.
Can Izzy hear me? You can't have one of those.
Yeah, I was going to say. This is,
You're not allowed to have
I
that.
purposely wanted to.
You can't have that.
They say no bruises, no pain that come with it. It just comes out so fast, and then you get hit with a Nerf ball. So it doesn't really hurt.
Yes, it does.
Well, they swear that it doesn't. They swear that it does. So it's kind of like playing paintball with the ferocity of paintball and the speed of the balls coming at you, but it's Nerf, so it doesn't hurt you. They say, by the way, that these are going to go for on sale for $50. Those are the ones that have a whole cartridge and you don't have to manually reload. So it's like a semi-automatic Nerf gun that shoots those for $50.
It's time for Congress to finally enact Nerf control.
Right? Congress should probably take a look at this. Nevzat Aydin is a businessman from Turkey. He started up a food delivery business that was bought by another company, bought by Germany's Delivery Hero. It was bought for $589 million back in May. So you know what he did whenever he sold it? He took care of all of his employees that helped him run his company before it got bought. He paid out $27 million to the 114 employees that had worked with him that whole time. So talking about profit sharing, he said, I wouldn't have been able to sell this product without these employees helping me. They deserve just as much credit. So again, $27 million.
Can you send me that story so I can send it to the CEO of my company?
Yeah, right?
I can forward that along.
Yeah, just frame that and keep it at your desk.
Yeah.
And it happened again, Bill. We had more intruders onto the White House property.
What?
Except this time, It was 5 tiny baby squirrels. Tiny little baby squirrels that had been abandoned by their mother were found on the White House grounds. National Park Service employees had to escort them. They took them to the zoo so that they could sort of help nurture them and bring them back up because their mother's gone. But they found these squirrels just in a nest on the White House grounds. And without somebody finding them and helping them, they probably would have died.
I mean, there's a lot of squirrels on the White House grounds. So
Right, but these have been abandoned little teeny little baby squirrels. There's a picture we'll tweet out at BP Show. You can take a look at the squirrels. There was an employee who was cutting down branches on the White House and found them. So called somebody in, got them some help. They're going to be okay. They don't have a mom, but they'll be just fine.
Good to hear. Yes, indeed. Thank you, Peter. Jesse, the story that I find that I'm just, I don't know, so disgusted with today, more than any of the other political stuff or policy stuff, is the story about this dentist, American dentist from Minnesota, Bloomington, Minnesota.
Yeah. Shot the lion.
Shot Cecil.
I don't get it. I don't really get hunting in general.
What is it all about?
I don't get it. Look, I'm not a vegetarian. I like to eat meat, so I'm not against the idea of, killing animals. Like I'm a meat eater, but I don't really get the urge to look at a lion. Like I go to the zoo with my daughter, who's now hearing about killing lions. Okay, sorry, Izzy. We'll talk about it in the car later. I don't get it. I don't get seeing a lion and the next thing you want to do is kill it. I don't understand what could possibly motivate you to do that. Like what would be in your head to do that? And so so it's bad enough anyway. These big trophy hunters. I don't understand the urge. But not only that, but this particular lion who was like the star attraction at this national park,
like killing Lassie.
Right. It was named. It was collared with a tracker. It was just beloved, and they drew it out of the park. They attached meat to the car and drew it out of the park
because they could not legally kill it in the park.
Right. And I guess I think there's still legal questions. I hope they extradite this guy to Zimbabwe. I hope he spends some time in a Zimbabwe jail. He's just the worst. He's a bad guy, and I think it won't surprise your audience to learn.
But his name, I just want to point out, his name is Walter James Palmer.
Right.
His company is called, his office is River Bluff Dental. River Bluff, all one word, riverbluffdental.com is his website. He's from Bloomington, Indiana, and we're going to Minnesota. And we have trumped him earlier. We're going to trump him again. His office number is 952-884-5361. And so we want anybody who lives in that area to show up outside of his office today and protest. I mean, I hope there are thousands and thousands of people outside that office. And call him. The line may be busy. They may take it off the hook. But just bombard him with messages or email to that riverbluffdental.com and just say, what a douchebag you are. What a total flaming jerk, right?
Right.
You started to say something else about it.
Yeah. I was saying I don't think you'll be surprised. Your audience will be surprised to learn that he is not a progressive Democrat. He maxed out in 2012 to Mitt Romney. 3 days before the general election, he donated $5,000 to Romney's campaign. That's a max donation to both the primary, which was over, but they had to back designate $2,500 of that to the primary to pay for primary expenses, and then the other $25 goes to the general. 3 days before the election, he maxed out to Mitt Romney. He also gave a couple donations in the 90s to a Republican congressman in Minnesota, but that's it. But he was a strong Mitt Romney supporter. Frankly, right at the end there.
Stunned.
Yeah, stunned.
This is shocking.
Those are the values of a suburban dentist who likes to shoot lions.
I want to get to the point that you raised. I mean, what is in a person's head? What could possibly motivate them? Jimmy Kimmel touched on this. Jimmy Kimmel spent a lot of time on this last night, and Jimmy Kimmel touched on this. This will give you something else to talk to your daughter about in the car.
The big question is, why are you shooting a lion in the first place? I mean, I'm honestly curious to know why a human being would feel compelled to do that. How is that fun? Is it that difficult for you to get an erection that you need to kill things that are stronger than
Could you turn up the volume on your phone, please?
If that's the case, they have a pill for that. It works great. Just stay home and swallow it, and you save yourself a lifetime of being the most hated man in America who never advertised Jell-O pudding on television.
The Bill Cosby reference, of course, but there is something really sick, and this is what this guy does, right? He in fact, he put out this statement saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, I shut this line, but I just engage in what is he said? Activity I love and practice responsibly and legally." Well, first, Zimbabwe has put out the word. This was in an illegal kill.
Right.
He's the guy. But practice. How can you say you kill for trophy or a trophy hunter? You kill these beautiful creatures responsibly.
You're right. I don't understand what could possibly motivate. I mean, when I wrote a story about this yesterday on Blue Nation Review, and I was just like, this man who apparently shoots wild animals to make himself feel like a big strong man. Like, it's just that's it. Like you can just imagine him sitting in like a leather chair, drinking
surrounded by
glass of overpriced scotch, a big cigar,
all these heads all around,
right? Like bragging
wall,
about, oh yeah, I shot that lion with a bow and arrow. It's like, you know what? You're never in any danger. Don't pretend like it's the slightest bit dangerous or manly to murder a lion. Like, they're in a truck where they can, speed off if anything happens. They shoot this lion from a distance with an arrow, and that didn't kill the lion. So they spent 40 hours stalking the thing.
40 hours stalking it.
And then shot it dead with a gun.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just...
Shot it dead, and then skinned it and beheaded it.
And left the carcass on the edge of the park. Just left it there. It's like just terrible.
Disgusting. By the way, this is the same man who says, I practice this responsibly and legally. Right. Who was charged with a felony back in 2008 because he shot a black bear in a preserve or reserve somewhere in Wisconsin, dragged it out of there into an area which was a hunting ground, and then when the Fish and Wildlife people turned up, he lied and said that's where he had shot and killed it, where in fact he had shot it inside of a hunting preserve. So I mean, this guy's
He's an established lawbreaker when it comes to this stuff, and just I mean, this is what you heard. Like, get a real hobby, collect coins or something. There's got to be a better way to spend your time than this.
Yeah, but again, here's the number 952. We got it up on our website 952-884-5361, and I mean, just we need a Bernie Sanders sized crowd out of his office today in Bloomington, Minnesota. All right. Disgusting. Jesse Berney here on the news of the day from Blue Nation Review. It's also BlueNationReview.com. They're on it. They're on top of every breaking story, and you ought to follow them as we do here on the Bill Press Show. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. When I say dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you come.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
This is the Bill Press Show.
25 minutes after the hour, Tim Mack from the Daily Beast joins us at the half hour. Jesse Berney here now from Blue Nation Review, BlueNationReview.com. Another issue that not enough people are talking about, I believe, Jesse, but important to me, and that's the issue of gun control, if we're still allowed to use that phrase, or maybe we have to say gun safety now. But particularly after Lafayette, I was doing a little research on this last night. There is a group that tracks mass shootings in this country. Their definition of a mass shooting is any time where 4 or more people are shot. That's not necessarily killed, but shot. So far this year in the United States, 204 mass shootings.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost one a day.
Yeah. It's insane. It's you know, I know the messaging is you're right. Like, people have been trying to move from gun control to gun safety, but I would actually like to try to control the guns a little bit. I mean, I would like to, you know, I mean, this guy John Russell Hauser, I think I have that right.
Yes.
Never should have had a gun. You know, but the background checks just don't work. None of these folks should have ever gotten their hands on guns. Adam Lanza should never gotten his hands on a gun. Dylan Roof should never gotten his hand on a gun. I mean, we got to do something to keep the guns out away from these guys. And, you know, that's just...
And nobody's talking about it. There's nobody in Congress who's proposing doing anything about this. And you can't be state by state, because look what happened. This guy went into... he was committed involuntarily to a mental hospital in Georgia, and then he walks into Alabama into a pawn shop.
Right.
And you could buy a gun in a pawn shop.
I mean, I couldn't be less optimistic about this. I mean, you know, look, after Sandy Hook,
you're right.
You know, 20 dead children. It still haunts me. Like, it's still
first grade,
the most,
right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the most horrible thing since 9/11 by a long shot, and 20 dead children and nothing. I mean, they tried. I mean, we had Manchin and Toomey, the most conservative Democrat in the Senate, and, you know, a very right-wing Republican leading the fight to pass gun control. Couldn't even pass it in the Senate, let alone the House. Couldn't get it done. If we can't get it done with 20 dead children, we're not going to get it done with 9 black churchgoers. We're not going to get it done with 2 and the shooter in a theater. Like, yes, I mean, absolutely. You and I can talk for 6 hours about that something must be done, but it's not going to happen. It's so frustrating to sit here time after time, see these stories again and again and again, and just knowing nothing's going to happen. 20 dead kids, nothing.
Rick Perry's got the answer. The answer is to give everybody in the theater a gun.
I made a video about that yesterday. Unbelievable. I mean, can you imagine being in a darkened movie theater, people screaming, shots going off, and somebody trying to shoot somebody? You know what would happen there?
Worst idea.
Exactly.
Literally the worst idea in the world.
Jesse, Berney, great to see you. Thanks, Isabel. Thanks for coming.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university? And,
yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies.
In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
please.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, here we go. At 33 minutes after the hour, it is the Bill Press Show. We seldom have such a media star in-house as we do right now, but if you were watching Megyn Kelly on Fox last evening, if you were watching Morning Joe on MSNBC this morning, you may be surprised to see Tim Mack from the Daily Beast here on the Bill Press Show. He's got the gift of bilocation, I guess, almost.
I'm an old friend of the show.
You are, but you remember Tim because he is a one time at least, maybe more, guest host of the show.
Yeah. Once in future guest host.
Right.
Let's hope.
Not by himself. Not by himself. It was Tim and Swin.
Although we
Tim
learned
and Swin.
very quickly that Tim sits in the big chair while Swin is in here with him.
But so Tim, you have been doing all these media hits lately, and are here this morning to talk about a big story you broke on Daily Beast about Donald Trump.
Yeah, I mean...
First, tell us about that, then we'll talk about the reaction to it.
Sure. I mean, look, Donald Trump introduced his presidential campaign by insulting Mexican immigrants, which many of whom he described as rapists. Worth looking into whether or not there have been any allegations against Donald Trump or what his history on that topic has been. So when we found out that during the divorce proceedings from his first wife, Ivana Trump, she had stated that there was a 1989 incident that she characterized as rape.
She characterized it as rape.
She characterized it as rape.
In her divorce proceedings?
Yes, in a deposition.
Mm-hmm.
She, after a book in 1993 was written and printed, she released a statement kind of softening that a little bit, saying that she did not mean rape in a literal or criminal manner, but that she had felt violated by that 1989 incident. And so this has not really been widely known. So we took a look at it, and we wrote a story about it. We reached out to the Trump campaign, and that's when it kind of got a little crazy.
And Michael Cohen, is that his name?
Yes.
Yeah. Trump's lawyer was the first one you heard from, I
This
guess.
guy is trouble.
Right.
I don't like this guy.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Cohen is supposed to be a lawyer, supposed to be knowledgeable about the law. I called the Trump campaign, and he called me back. He said, I mean, we talked a little bit about these allegations, and it started off reasonably. But then he said, as you know, by definition, spouses cannot rape their spouse. That husbands cannot rape their wives. That doesn't exist. I mean, of course, anyone who's familiar with the law knows that that's illegal. That of course,
that's been well established as law for a long time.
Wrong.
Over 20 years, and it's been illegal in the state of New York for 30 years, since 1984, well before this alleged incident took place. And irregardless, the lawyer should have known better than to state it in the present tense. It certainly is illegal.
Did he challenge you? Did he threaten you?
Certainly. I mean, we started a normal conversation, and it descended into petty insults and threats of a $500 million lawsuit against me.
Against you?
Yes.
For reporting this, but actually, you're not the one. This was in her deposition and then reported in a book as well.
Yeah, that's why we stand. That's why we stand by this story. And that's why, I don't think that they have a very good legal case if they were to.
And if that's his argument, if that's his defense, that raping someone you're married to is not actually rape, then it's pretty open and shut case.
All right. Or necessarily. He was on CNN. Sure, you know. On Lemon, Trump saying that basically Michael Cohen was speaking for himself, not for Trump.
No, you have to understand, Michael was extremely angry because he knew it never took place. He knew this website was a joke, considered a joke, and he was very angry, and maybe he didn't even understand the question, but no, I don't. I disagreed with him. In fact, when I read it, I disagreed. I didn't know that he said it, or who knows what he said, because, frankly, I'm not sure that they reported accurately anyway. But assuming he said it, no, I disagree with that.
Well, the meanest cut of all, of course, is calling a Daily Beast a joke.
I mean, I think that's probably a little bit of a badge of honor. I mean, it's a very frequent use of that word by Donald Trump when he's talking about other people, things, and so on.
Yeah, no, to be called a joke by Donald Trump, I think is right. I would wear that as a badge of honor, right? So Megyn Kelly last night on Fox News said, "You're just. I mean, this is totally irrelevant. And why are you reporting this story in the first place?"
Okay, so it's relevant because of the reason that I discussed earlier, which is that Donald Trump made it relevant by talking about Mexican immigrants and referring to them as rapists. I think there's a hypocrisy angle that makes it relevant, and it's relevant because Donald Trump is the front runner in the Republican presidential primary right now. For whatever your audience or other people in the public might think,
he's not just a
side
candidate.
show.
He is the front runner.
I'm sorry. All these people that say you shouldn't be talking about Trump, or Trump is irrelevant, or we're not going to cover Trump on our politics page, we're going to cover him on the entertainment page. It's garbage. You cannot deny the fact that Donald Trump is winning the GOP primary as of right now. End of story. You might not like it. I mean, I wish it wasn't true, but it's true.
Nationwide, he's number one. He is way out in front, number one in New Hampshire, and he is a close number two in Iowa. So you're right. He is relevant. Therefore, the story is relevant. Right?
Yeah, I totally think that it's relevant. I think it's fair, and I think it's accurate in the way that we're describing it. And totally worthy of publication.
Right. And now on Morning Joe this morning, you did not receive such a positive, reception as you do here on the Bill Press Show. Why? What was
Yeah, well, I think one of the co-hosts, Mika Brzezinski, she objected to the discussion of Donald Trump in a very serious way. Didn't think that this is a serious story. And look, I understand what she's saying, but Republican primary voters haven't gotten that message. They don't seem to agree with her on that, and that's why there is relevance to Donald Trump. That's why we're talking about Donald Trump today.
It drives me crazy. People act like you can't talk about Donald Trump just because you don't want to.
By the way, he's been on their show.
Of course. He's been on several times.
Yeah, right. It's not like they don't have him on, right? Ivana Trump has come out also on this and basically said it never happened now.
Well, she said it was without merit. She said that our story was without merit. And we can parse those or whatever. And maybe she has, over the years, come up to a different conclusion about what happened in 1989. I can't read, into their memories and figure out what precisely happened. But it is clear that while things were acrimonious between Ivana Trump and Donald Trump during their divorce days, they have reconciled. And she does feel now today that he would, for example, make a good president.
Boy, that's a big leap. I mean, that's a huge leap. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, there was a lot of bitterness between them. And so that is definitely the context with which to view these accusations. But she had the opportunity to deny that she had made those comments in 1993, and she did not deny that.
Well, she made them under oath, correct?
I believe it was a sworn. Was a sworn deposition. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's very difficult. It's very difficult to say that that you didn't say the things that you said during that time.
So I'm curious. You write a story like this that is immediately attacked, and even some members of some fellow journalists say you shouldn't even be talking about him or this particular aspect of his life. How do your editors take this? Are they standing behind you? Or leaving you out on a limb here?
No, I sure hope they're standing behind me. No, I think there's a full-throated defense from my editors, and I'm grateful to them for that. I mean, you could see the editor on the piece, Noah Shackman, and my editor-in-chief in public statements defending my story, and I think, I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, I mean, you have your sources, right? You didn't make this up. You got your sources.
I think that the piece is totally rock solid.
Yeah. And I think Michael Cohen helped a little bit by threatening. That's the classic Trump machine response, right?
I'd be curious to know what it's going to be that finally takes Trump down. Like what it is that he finally does or says, or what surfaces from his history that's finally going to be too much. Because we saw the comments about McCain, how Donald Trump likes people who weren't captured. That didn't hurt him. This, I don't think, is going to hurt him.
Well, maybe this. The New York Times above the fold this morning. We'll talk about this when we come back with Tim Maxman, Daily Beast. Under oath, Trump shows his raw side. Uh-oh. And this is not Ivana Trump's deposition. Is this Donald Trump under oath? Not a very pretty picture. Tim Max here from the Daily Beast. Questions, comments, 866-55-PRESS. Take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
Yeah, I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found on the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
13 minutes before the top of the hour, here in studio with us, Tim Beck, celebrated Congressional correspondent for the Daily Beast, with his most recent story about Donald Trump, which has stirred up a little response from the Trump campaign and from some of his fellow journalists as well. Before we move on to the next Trump story here in the New York Times today, Tim, this is Benjamin calling from Naperville, Illinois. Benjamin, good morning.
Good morning, Bill. First time, long time listener, first time caller.
We love it. All right, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that why should we not make this a case? Because, I mean, imagine if this was Bernie Sanders that was accused of such a thing. Do you think Fox won't talk about it?
Oh, are you kidding? It would be leading. It would be leading every Fox show.
Absolutely. So I think we should keep the. I mean, I applaud Tim, and I'm telling you, you're doing a great job. We have to keep the story alive because we can't have a rapist as the president.
All right, Benjamin, good to hear from you. So there's one supporter, Tim. All right, do you feel better now?
I voice felt great. I feel fine.
All right. So with the New York Times story, and I know you read it this morning, but they've been looking back at a lot of court cases where Donald Trump has appeared as a witness. And they point out that under oath, Trump shows his raw side. Here's one sentence that I love, which kind of sums it up. Some of his hundreds of pages of sworn testimony by Mr. Trump over the past decade show something less flattering. Some of his claims made under oath and under pressure are shown to be hyperbolic overstatements and others to be shadings of the truth or even outright misstatements. And in some instances, he turns out to be boorish and demeaning. Doesn't it just sum up Donald Trump?
Yeah, that's not a surprise. That's the most surprising paragraph I've ever read in the paper. But I think also there's another anecdote in that New York Times story that's really kind of appalling. Yeah. I mean, he's in a deposition. One of the lawyers who's questioning him, who he's disparaged the entire time or much of the time, is asking for a medical break. She has a toddler who needs to be fed, and so
she needs to pump her breast milk.
She needs to pump breast milk, and so she pulls out a pump to make the point. Hey, I've got to do this. And according to the report, he says, you're disgusting.
Yeah.
And then walks out.
Right. You're disgusting, and he stands up and walks out of the courtroom.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So this just some insights into what kind of a person he is. By the way, it also points out, the Times points out, was he really paid $1 million for a speech in 2005, as he boasted? He was not. It was $400,000, which is still a lot of money, but he said it was $1 million. Did his debts ever reach $9 billion in the 90s, as he said? No, they didn't. He actually wrote there were debts of $3.6 billion, which is still a lot of money. But again, he's always, so when he says he's worth $10 billion, we know that he's worth nowhere near that.
Well, there's a long history of him, as the article states, overstating his net worth or his achievements or whatever else.
So
it is one of his greatest talents, overstating his wealth.
Right.
But you have to wonder, Donald Trump is a smart guy. He's not at all.
Oh yeah.
It would be a mistake to look at some of his bluster and say, well, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. He knows exactly what he's doing, and I think it's very. He's very strategically advanced to the top of the Republican field.
So are you going to, have they kind of scared you off? Are you going to walk away from Donald Trump and not do any more Donald Trump stories?
Look, I mean, as much as I sympathize with Morning Joe's Mika, right, about how Donald Trump is not a particularly serious political figure, as long as he is a political candidate running for president, I think he deserves serious coverage.
Amen. Keep going. I mean, absolutely. We're proud of you. I mean, it's just good digging, good reporting, and you know what? It goes with the territory, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, running for president across the board, and particularly for a guy like Donald Trump, whom you point out is the front runner.
Absolutely.
It's a very interesting model here of how he's running for president. Like, all this stuff has been out there for so long, and yet people still are giving him their support. So it's not like these stories that are being brought up are going to necessarily shock people into dropping their support. You know what I mean?
Right. He's invulnerable, it seems, right?
It seems that way.
That stories and statements that would destroy any normal candidate just kind of roll right off him.
Embolden him, yeah.
Right, because people have come to expect it, that this is the standard that Donald Trump has set. And so if you are a supporter, if you're one of the many people who tell pollsters that you would support Donald Trump, it's very difficult to change your mind. And in fact, I think some of these stories may have the opposite effect, which is to embolden Trump supporters to support Trump even more strongly.
Right. All right, Tim Mack, thank you so much. And we particularly appreciate the fact that while you're in the top of your game right now, you still haven't forgotten your friends at the Bill Press Show.
Thanks for having me on.
Tim Mack from the Daily Beast, dailybeast.com.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is The Bill Press Show.
Hey, don't you wish you were a member of Congress? I mean, we pay them $175,000 a year to work for us, and what do we get for it? Well, consider this. John Boehner yesterday announced that the House would recess today, this afternoon, 2 days early for its August recess, and they won't be back in town until after Labor Day. But, of course, they still get paid. Now, what about that highway bill? Oh, no, we didn't have to. That's going to have to wait until September. What about that Iran nuclear? No, Iran nuclear deal. That's going to have to wait until September, too. What about climate change, immigration reform, minimum wage, criminal justice reform, gun safety? Oh, no, we don't have time for any of that either. We got to go to the beach. And, by the way, while they're at the beach, again, we are paying them $175,000 a year. That's what we pay for them to work for us. And what do we get for it? Absolutely nothing. Hey, folks, have a great day. Come back tomorrow.
This is the Bill
We'll be looking
Press
for you.
Show.